a pretty good crowd coming out tonight to hear what your candidates have to say. This is one of your final opportunities to do exactly that, so hopefully we can make a more informed decision. And just before we get started, once again, first of all, we'll be having school trustees coming up in just a minute here. So if anybody has any questions they would like to submit, remember you can write them down, and Kevin Ward, right over there, he will be more than happy to take them. And Peter's doing it too, once again. So you just have to raise your hand, flag them down, however you got to do it, and they'll be more than happy to pass them on. So if you want to do that right now, if you have any questions for our trustees, now would be a good time. We'll just go over a few things for the format of the evening, which includes, and this is something we do adhere to very strictly. Every candidate has 2 minutes to provide an overview of their campaign platform. That's how they begin. After which they will be invited to respond to written questions, which will be collected from the floor. At that point, the candidates will have 1 minute to respond to each question, unless it's a yes or no, and we do get some of those as well. Chamber of Commerce, we mentioned, voluntarily provides a forum and facilitates a process to encourage an exchange of information between the public and the candidates, and responsibility for the content and the tone of the event lies entirely with the audience and the candidates themselves. So that's our little disclaimer for you right now, but you help control the agenda, the topics, and all that sort of thing. There are 4 participating candidates for English School Board Trustees. We have up to 30 minutes for presentation and questions and answers for them. There'll be 11 participating candidates for council, for which we have 90 minutes allocated, and 6 candidates for mayor and deputy mayor, and we have up to 60 minutes provided for them. And once again, timing will be strictly enforced. We have a yellow yield sign, which will be held up to signify 15 seconds. Right there, you want to show? Yep, it goes up like that. When that lets whoever's speaking know they have 15 seconds remaining. And then, when it comes to the end, we get an orange stop sign goes up, and your microphone is turned off. No questions asked. We do strictly enforce that, so candidates keep that in mind. Written questions collected from the floor throughout the evening, so don't be shy if something comes to mind while we're in the middle of something. Again, you can just flag down our Peter or Kevin there, and they'll be more than happy to take your cards. Just remember to raise your hand and we'll come see you. Questions can be directed to candidates on the stage, to like a general question for everybody, or just to individuals. The questions will be delivered to the table at the front, where they will be sorted by topic, and they may rewrite some of the questions for clarity, or if there are multiple questions on the same topic, they will be combined for efficiency. There are time restrictions, of course, because we all want to get out of here before some of us have to get up in the morning. So due to time restrictions, we can't guarantee all questions are collected from the floor, but we certainly will make every effort to ensure that the most frequently asked questions are given top priority. One more little disclaimer: profanity, outbursts, or displays of disrespect are not to be tolerated. On-stage placement and order of presentations was determined by random draws held earlier this evening, just in case you were wondering about the order that everybody is speaking. I would now invite our candidates for English School Board Trustees to make their way up to the stage here and take their places, and we can begin the first section of the evening. Right, everything is in place. place. So what we will do is we'll get started, and as I said, each candidate will have 2 minutes to give their opening statements. And again, we will adhere to the time limit, so do be aware of that when you are speaking to formulate a response or you're speaking. We'll get started first of all. School Board Trustee Brad Mills.
I am Brad Mills, and thank you for all being here. I was born and raised pretty much all my life in Port Hope. And I've worked with kids almost my whole life. That's all I care about as trustee, is making sure the kids are taken care of, that we have the proper resources, proper programming, proper technology. And just a little bit of background. I started working with kids when I was 16 as a camp counselor. I got involved with parent council when my daughter was 5. Spent 4 years as trustee. I worked hard on the resource committee, the program committee, and the technology committee to make sure that all our kids had equal opportunities, equal chances. Because we know, even in some of our schools, there's a difference in how the kids react. Maybe we need some more counselors. I didn't really understand grief until last year, when I went through a death with him. And I know there's a lot of kids suffering out there, but there's also kids that are exceptional, and we need that extra programming for them to be available. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll get to an opening statement from Jane Placid-Janinga.
Good evening. I'm pleased to share with you that education is alive and well in Cobourg and surrounding areas. Our Cobourg and area students continue to excel in multidisciplinary activities, from athletics to science to fundraising to the arts to volunteering. We look forward in early 2015 to the opening of a new elementary intermediate school at the CR Gummo site. We are now entering the second phase of the Cobourg Collegiate Institute upgrades and look forward to showcasing the changes upon their completion in the fall of 2015. I would also like to take this opportunity to personally extend my thanks to the residents of the town of Cobourg and surrounding area for the integrity and respect shown during the secondary school review process. The legacies of CBCI East and West will remain, and new opportunities will be born in the rebirth of Cobourg Collegiate Institute. As a music teacher in the Cobourg area for the past 20 years, I've had the opportunity to work with students at various ages and ability levels. As your trustee, I've been able to serve the greater public, having developed positive relationships among students, staff, teachers, principals, and senior administration within our jurisdiction. This has fueled my passion for education and for advocating for the best that we can be as a publicly funded school board. I firmly believe in the leadership direction of our board. Our current strategic plan is focused on ensuring that student needs are being addressed across a broad spectrum of issues, from nutrition to mental health to numeracy and literacy. KPR is a leader nationally in the area of mental health and mentally healthy schools, and by invitation, our programs are being shared with other provinces. Moving forward, I intend to continue to advocate for our student body with special needs, to open dialogue with respect to improved student transportation. One-size busing no longer fits our board structure. To press for a curriculum that will teach students the importance of financial literacy. To work towards the development of career-based programming that targets students earlier in their education cycle, and to find solutions to keeping our small schools vital and alive. At the end of the day, I'm a parent, a teacher, a member of the community at large, and I would appreciate your continued support going forward.
Perfectly timed. There we go. That's how it works. Next, we'd like to hear from Mike Phillip.
I feel very privileged to have the opportunity to run for public school trustee in our community. Public education is the foundation for our kids, and if elected, my mandate is to ensure that the next generation is prepared for our diverse and ever-changing world. I look forward to putting kids first. I've worked with kids and their families as an educator, coach, and a mentor for over 35 years. I'm now retired and have a young son in grade 5 at Grafton Public School. I continue to be an involved hockey dad and volunteer at the school on a regular basis, as well as being involved in various community organizations. I have the skill set to be a strong link between our community and the school board. I'd like to share with you a few of my priorities. I'm a strong advocate for mental health education and awareness in our schools and community. As your trustee, I will foster partnerships with community organizations. A strong voice is necessary to develop student programs and training for all teachers and support staff. Much of my life has been spent working with kids as a coach, and I continue to publicly support extracurricular programs in our schools as they can reach all students and are often a great equalizer. The teachers and the community volunteers are essential for making activities happen within our schools, and we need to see this continue to grow. I need to work with the school board with regards to budget and fiscal responsibilities. We need to ensure that our tax dollars are being spent on education with the best interest of our kids and their families at heart. These can be difficult conversations considering today's economy. I will advocate for you at the board table and help to ensure accountability and transparency. We also need to ensure that our schools and school boards continue to provide our students with access to technology. Our kids are 21st century learners and live in a digital world. Our schools and teachers need the technology and training to provide a 21st century education. I possess the skills necessary to collaborate with all stakeholders. I'm open to new ideas and have the ability to be a good voice for our community. I have experience in the education system, and I'm a parent with a child in our local system and want to be I want to be the best education.
Thank you. Yes. That's how it works. Thank you very much. Next, we will hear from Gordon Gilchrist.
Many folk wonder what trustees do. Trustees govern all the activities of the school board. My colleagues and I oversee and introduce many things for the benefit of your kids, our students. In my 2 minutes, let me talk about some of the many achievements of the Cobourg Public School Board, because as a 14-year trustee, I have been able to influence quite a few of these innovations. One is the installation of interactive electronic smartboards into our classrooms. They bring vast amounts of pictorial and verbal information as teaching aids in the instruction of our students. Another is KPR being the first board in Canada to adopt the Discovery Textbook program, containing many subjects of TV's Discovery Channel, complete with discussion, questions, and answers. Still another is the insisting of much greater emphasis on the teaching of science and technology because of their vital importance to today's students. We've asked teachers to recognize the numerous opportunities offered by the sciences in today's world: electronics, nanotechnology, clean energy, robotics, biotechnologies, environmental science, and many more. My 4 terms have overseen Cobourg East's adoption of culinary arts, horticulture, construction material programs, French immersion, and the Super International Baccalaureate program. My demand list for the new Cobourg Collegiate will see 7 modern science classrooms, a Mac computer lab, a fine library and arts center, plus music and dance classrooms. We will have combined 2 of the board's top academic schools to give students great curriculum selection. They will receive 400 career choice classes next year compared to 211 last year. And our elementary school kids will have far greater career choices for advanced learning. That's what trustees do. They raise the bar and give guidance to our excellent administrators and teachers who carry out the activities of teaching and learning. I thank you for having given me your trust for the past 14 years, and I respectfully ask for your continuing support.
Okay, thank you. Those are the opening statements from our candidates for school board trustee. And now we will go to the question part of the segment, where we'll ask the question and then we'll give each candidate 60 seconds to respond. Same formatted place. You'll get a 15-second warning towards the end, and then the stop sign at the end, and mic goes off. And again, these are questions that have been collected from the audience. And we'll get started first of all with this question. And if there is any question needed repeating, you can just let me know. First of all, trustees, how do you rate the EQAO results for schools in Cobourg overall? So that's the question. How do you rate the EQAO results for schools in Cobourg overall? And we'll begin first with Brad Mills.
The results for Cobourg are very, very good. But as trustee, we cover a bigger area than Cobourg. And there are some schools that need some extra support. And we need to be able to provide that support. so that every student can succeed. Thank you.
Okay. Jane Plassen-Janinga.
As Mr. Real stated, Cobourg schools do very well in the EQAO overall. In many areas, we are at provincial, if not right at provincial, but within a point of what provincial standards are, except in mathematics, and that has been well publicized in the province. Interesting enough, I looked at our EQAO marks in Cobourg today, and it was interesting to me to see from a percentage, it's a big number. When it boils down to students, it's 4 students that didn't make that level 4 compared to 12 in the province that did. So it's looking at the big picture. And the big picture is what we're here to educate for. It's not just about EQAO, it's about literacy, it's about mathematics, it's about social skills, it's about special needs support. It's all the combined picture. And so the information we gain is a tool in helping to educate our kids.
Thank you. Mike Phillip.
Yes, I agree with Jane in many respects. I think it's important, though, to keep in mind that EQAO is only one tool, and that it is something that is mandated by the province. We need to educate the public that EQAO is only one piece of assessment. Sometimes we get caught up with thinking that a school is labeled as a result of the EQAO piece, and that's not true. That's why we have a report card with a first page, and that's why social skills are so important. Canadian kids have great educations in those areas. That first page of the report card is all about social skill development, and that's what makes that's what makes the kids great in Canada. Teachers need to be sure that they understand that it's just not EQAO that makes a school, and you shouldn't be labeled by low scores in a specific school for a child or a school. Thank you.
Gordon Gilchrist.
EQAO is a valuable tool for parents and for educators to evaluate the performance of schools and school boards. North of Pine Ridge comes up very well against the 72 boards in the province of Ontario. And it's just as important as a report card. How would we know what's going on if we didn't have standardized reporting and an ability to rate everything from the teacher to the student? So I'm very much in favor of reporting our successes or failures. This year we're not particularly happy with the mathematics results, but we did a year ago put mathematics specialty teachers in each of our 3 areas, Clarington, and Cobourg and Peterborough, to teach the teachers better mathematics. That's the result of finding out where we stand through EQAO, and I hope we will continue to do that.
Okay, thank you. And we'll move on to our next question now. What can be done to ensure our kids have better access to mental health programs and awareness? So what can be done to ensure our kids have better access to mental health programs and awareness? And this time we'll begin with Jane Plassen-Janinga.
Community partnerships are very valid. I have spent the past 3 years on the Special Education Advisory Committee, and mental health is one of the key areas. And as I noted earlier, North of Pine Ridge District School Board has been renowned Canadian for its mental health literacy programs. And within the next few weeks, we will be upping the ante with not just our students, but also with the teachers, but more importantly with our school administrators. Our principals and vice principals are going to be taught a course in mental health first aid, and it's being taught by psychologists and people who are well versed in this area. Our school psychologists are more in our schools than ever. Many of our schools now have mental health counselors. And in addition, our school board is now fortunate enough to have 2 full-time mental health nurses that are available to principals should they need them.
Thank you. Okay. Mike Phillip.
We certainly. Am I on? There we go. We certainly need more work in this area. If you look at my tweet, if you tweet me at Philip Mike, you'll see that I posted an article that's very interesting in the area. But 15 to 21% have at least one mental health disorder. That's our children today. Early intervention is the key. We need to be there earlier. How does that work? What does that look like? Well, we need more CYWs in our schools, child and youth care workers. They're the early bird there. They can pick up a child with an issue quickly, and we know that the earlier we intervene, the better the chance for that child to be able to have that problem rectified. So that's where we need to go. We need more CYWs, not less. We need them back in the high schools. That's where we need to go. Thank you very much.
Okay, and Gordon Gilchrist.
There's no point in me repeating what Jen has said very competently. We have specialty people in the board, psychologists. We have agencies we deal with all the time. Yesterday alone, I had a very difficult case brought forward to me of a child who was missed the last week and a half of school because it just cannot be accommodated in the classroom. So a meeting was called, and very specialized people were brought together to work out an actual program for this child. And that was satisfactorily handled. We do that all the time, from educational assistants who handle one-on-one right up to handling a number of kids each. And I think we cover it very well as a school board, but of course there's always room for improvement in that.
Okay, and Brad Mills.
I'm not going to argue with anybody. Early identification is necessary. And these people need to be trained so they can identify it. And I'm going to be very, very blunt, which if you don't know me, I am. But we need to get the province off their butts to help out with this. Support it financially, support it with people, to help. I think what might be a bit of a help, if we could use our high school students, get them in the elementary schools as mentors, and that would be a start. But we need to get the province on board with this, support it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have another question now for each of our candidates. How would you ensure that all students, regardless of financial status, are able to participate in all school activities? And can you mention specific programs that you have championed to address the issue? So how do you ensure all students, regardless of financial status, are able to participate in all school activities? If you can mention specific programs you have championed to address that issue, that'd be great. And we begin with Mike Phillip.
Well, this question must have been for me. As a retired principal, I did this every day for the last 35 years. A couple of examples that come to mind. First of all, the breakfast programs. I was one of the initiators in breakfast programs for kids in high-risk schools. I have been in a school where I have fed 91 out of 120 kids every day. Yes, there's a need, and guess what? Their level of education jumped. It was as simple as that. They did much better at every level in education because they all got an even start, and that's important for every kid. Another thing I'm involved with, let's look at another sample. I started a music program in one of our local schools and built the self-esteem of the school where kids had no self-esteem. Those kids are competing across the province and they wear that badge on their chest. Those are two examples of great programming that I've been involved in.
Thank you. And Gordon Gilchrist.
Mike, you've stolen my best shot there with the breakfast program. That's been undoubtedly the most successful program of allowing kids to achieve their best physical ends and even their intellectual ends. No child is denied access to any of our sports programs. Some of them are costly, but the schools generally bear the cost of these programs. And it comes down to the ability, the physical ability of the kids to participate and their willingness to do so. So I don't think it's a question of financial problem, but rather of the desire and ability of the kids to achieve the various schools. And certainly there's a lot of enthusiasm for that.
Brad Mills.
There is a financial problem with a lot of families. And in my experience, what I've done with my kids' schools is help fundraise for those families that can't afford those programs. But we try to make sure that every child has the same opportunity as the ones that can afford it. Because they shouldn't be denied that. And especially with physical programs, we should be promoting more and more, whether the child is capable or not, but they shouldn't be denied that opportunity to try. And I'm a strong advocate for that. So it hits close to home. Thank you.
Jane Klassen-Janinga.
Yes, thank you. As Trustee Gilchrist has indicated, and Mr. Phil, a lot of our schools have discretionary funds that are available for students. So no student has ever turned away from going on a field trip because mom and dad can't afford it, or the guardian can't afford it. The other piece of this puzzle is the fact that often the teachers are the first to know if the child can afford it. We have some great educators in our system who insist on paying for special things for the students in their class on their own. We have, as I said, we have discretionary funds. Personally, I've been involved in community dinners, lunches, particularly around Christmas time, where we've done community dinners for the community who would normally get a full Christmas dinner because it's not in their budget. And the other thing we've done is a portion of proceeds from things like fun fairs, etc., go towards a specific, so that we can.
Okay. Thank you. And that will be for that question. Now this one, I think, feel free to field however you like. This should be a good one. Trustees, is our tax money being put to good use, and how can this be improved? So is our tax money being put to good use, and how can this be improved? We'll start with Gordon Gilchrist.
Well, of course, I believe the tax money, as far as Cobourg Pine Ridge is concerned, is very much put to good use. I sit on the budget committee, as my colleague Jane. I also am on the the committee that handles the accountability of the budget, and I make sure that all aspects of that are properly in order, I can assure you. I can't think of a single budget line that is handled in excess of need. We are generally short of funds. We get funds from the ministry annually, and we have to live within them. And we have built new schools, 14 since I became a trustee, almost one a year. And we close a few and we sell them off. And everything is done in a very business-like way. And I believe that the tax dollars are well spent.
Okay. Brad Mills.
Of course, when I was trustee, I was on the budget committee, of course, for 4 years. Vice chaired for 1. Cobourg Pine Ridge, I think, is very transparent. The money is well spent. But as a whole, as taxpayers, this might not make it too popular, but there should be one system. Why do we need several directors, several superintendents? The busing, I believe right now, at least in KPR, is at its prime. We've saved as much money as we could do, and I was chair of that when we did it back then.
Jane Klassen-Janinga.
That's a loaded question. In many areas, I'd say for Fourth and Pine Ridge District School Board, that the funds that we can control as trustees is being managed well. We are topping up special education needs, even in the face of declining enrollment. In fact, for the first time ever this past year, our special education monies was reduced as the province overhauled how they decided to handle the monies according to different boards. And we looked at what our needs were in our board and said that's not good enough. We're going to keep it where it was last year and found the money to be able to do so without sacrificing any other programs, without sacrificing a staff member. So I think that we are handling it well. So the portion we can control, but funds are going to be diminishing to declining enrollment, and we just have to be more creative.
The answer about our tax dollars, Mike Phillip.
Well, I agree certainly with some of my fellow colleagues here, but we cannot be complacent. We must make sure that we review all our budget lines on a regular basis. We must remember to consult with the experts in all of those areas. We have to be able to ask the tough questions, make sure that we are fiscally responsible. What we did last year is not necessarily what we should do tomorrow. And those are tough things. Where we are now, where are we going? What's the gap analysis here? Let's look at where we are, where we want to go, and how we're going to get there. And let's be fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question, again for all our candidates, where do you stand on all-day kindergarten? If you are against, what would be your proposed solution? So where do you stand on all-day kindergarten, either for or against? If against, what would you be propose as your solution? And we'll begin with Brad Mills.
I'm all for all-day kindergarten. The kids today are ready for it. They can do the material. I just think they get a better baseline for what's going to be coming up in the next year or two. Yes, my kids went through it. It was all day, every other day. I think that worked. And they handled it quite well. And they're still in school today, quite a bit older, but I think it helped. Thank you.
Jane Classen-Jaminga.
I'm of two minds on this particular topic. As some of you may or may not know, the Ministry of Child and Youth Services is also under the umbrella of the Ministry of Education. So part of that includes daycare, and this was part of an overt attempt to provide better and cheaper daycare for families who couldn't afford it. Now, I have sat in full-day kindergarten classrooms in many of our schools, and I see two things happening. One is that it works very well with the senior kindergartens. I'm not quite as convinced that it works just as well with the junior kindergartens, because that's a very young age to be in school all day, and in a learning environment and not in a play all the time environment. So I see the benefits. I will be interested to see going forward whether it affects our grade 1s and our 2s. We are seeing better marks and better literacy and numeracy in those kids.
Okay. Mike Phillip.
Yes, we are. We are seeing better literacy scores and numeracy scores. What I really like about this program is that it works very, very well in a high-risk school. What it does is it gets the child into a socialization program so that that child can catch up and be ready so that when SK comes along, they're ready to go. And that's huge in a high-risk area because those kids don't have the advantages that the average kid does. They don't have the demographics, they don't have the money, they don't have the opportunities that an average student would have. So high-risk schools, yes, absolutely. It gives those kids a chance to catch up and be part of the process. Thank you.
Gordon Gilchrist.
We're not too heavily endowed with high-risk schools in Pine Ridge. I can tell you that one of the joys of being a trustee is visiting a school and seeing the little kids like the junior kindergarten and kindergarten kids. They're just sponges. They're just soaking up information and knowledge and expressing themselves. It's just a wonderful experience. I like it. I know it's costly. I know the jury is still out as to whether it suits all the very young kids. If they were born in the later part of the year, they are younger. Sometimes they need a pretty good nap. But generally speaking, it has roughly moved to grade 13 out of the picture and down into the junior kindergarten. And perhaps that's not all bad. I certainly like it, and I enjoy watching the kids soak up all the information and instruction that's been given by these wonderful teachers who can handle it.
Hey, thank you. And that was our final question for the school board trustee candidates. And hopefully we've all soaked up some information from this one too. We want to thank you all for your answers, your participation, and to you for asking the questions. Remember, you can still get questions over to our folks, Peter and Kevin, for our next group, which will be the candidates for council, which will be getting underway in just a matter of minutes. So I'd like to thank once again our candidates for trustee. Once again, each candidate will have 2 minutes to make their opening statement. So be advised of your time limits. We'll go in order, and after that, we'll be reading out questions that have been submitted from the floor. Again, you can continue to do that throughout the evening. They will collect your questions and submit them. So if anything comes to mind, feel free to just flag them down, and they'll be happy to take them from you. Okay, we will begin. Oh, okay. Just to review, you get your 15-second warning. That's what that one means. So 15 seconds left, and time to look at wrapping it up. And when your time is up, and your microphone is off when that sign goes up. So there we go. So we will begin opening statements with Deborah McCarthy.
Hello, everybody, and I'm thrilled that you're all here, and I'm with a wonderful group of people. So, my name is Deborah McCarthy, and I'd like to be your Cobourg councillor. Would you like to see a thriving community with a vibrant, welcoming downtown, a jewel of a waterfront enjoyed by all now and in the future? Fair taxes that provide a safe and clean hometown in which to live, work, and play? Urban growth designed to preserve our precious farmland and our Oak Ridge moraine? Or would you rather play it safe and maintain the status quo? Empty stores downtown and at the mall, a waterfront threatened by marina expansion, high taxes, farmland gobbled up by development. Because that's what this election is really about, isn't it? Technology and globalization are changing our world in a blink of an eye. Look at our post office, look at the manufacturing that's gone offshore. Same old just doesn't work the way it used to. We need fresh, creative, out-of-the-box thinking to do that. I see opportunity ahead. People choosing to move to Cobourg because of our beautiful landscape, to create businesses. In fact, my website was created by somebody that moved from Toronto to live here. Entrepreneurship and skilled trades will sustain us as we address climate change and the aging demographic in our community, which I think is an opportunity. As a former school trustee and small business owner, I have the skills and experience to make this happen. Say yes to change. Together we can do it. And elect me as your councillor on October 27th. Thank you. And I get to say, have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend.
Next, we'll move on to Johnny Percolides.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. I'm also very happy to see so many people here, but I'm also really disappointed and I'll tell you why. If you all want to get involved, show of hands, please. Anybody under the age of 40? Maybe 6 people. And, I'm hoping for change. I'm hoping to get the younger people involved. I'm hoping to try and keep some of the young families in Cobourg. I've lived here for just over 6.5 years, and I've seen a lot of young families unfortunately leave. And I don't think that's a good thing for a town. One of the issues, of course, is the proposed marina expansion. Again, I don't think that's a good thing for the town. I would be opposed to that. I don't think we can afford it at this time. I think the budget is $2.5 million. If anybody here has ever renovated a home and has brought it in on budget, I think you'll be very surprised, right? So that 2.5 could easily be $3, $4, $5 million, which will probably benefit 100 or 200 people, voters, for maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year. Personally, I'd like to see the downtown revitalization plan actually have some action. Every downtown district that I've been to, and I'm from Montreal, I've lived in Toronto, I've traveled to New York, all over the place. Every downtown district has had entertainment. I think that's the main reason for going downtown today. When you go to a play, when you go to a comedy, you might go to a restaurant, you might go to a cafe, you're going to patronage the businesses. So I'd like to see more entertainment.
Okay. Forrest Rowden.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen and fellow candidates, as we only have 2 minutes tonight, I will tell you about my 22 years in politics, but 4 years in Cobourg briefly. I have worked with council to get our Victoria Park back for the residents of Cobourg by enforcing a new law to ban barbecues in our parks. I've worked closely with our bicycle club to make sure we got new bike lanes in Cobourg, a service stop for them at the North Industrial Park, and safety courses from Can Bike so they can teach our children safety. This has resulted in more people riding bicycles in Cobourg in the past few years, and that has reduced the use of cars, resulting in a reduction in greenhouse gases. We have reviewed our bylaws back as far as 1932, updated many of them to today's needs, at the same time deleting some that were redundant. I'm quite proud to live in Cobourg, and I like the harbour the way it is today. Having said that, we must look to the future like the councils before us did, that made the harbour and the park, where our fountain and skating rink are today, a beautiful walk downtown. I look forward to a plan that everyone can be proud of, so that all the harbour can be used by everyone in this town. I work very closely with council to make sure we got a new dog park in this last term, and this park is used by hundreds. If elected, I look forward to working with everyone in town of Cobourg, even a better place to live than it is today, by keeping our taxes below inflation and looking our ways to do more for less. On October the 27th, elect Forrest Rowden as one of your 5 council members. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next we'll hear from Brian Darling.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to say my name is Brian Darling. I'm born and raised here in the town of Cobourg. I truly love this community. My family's grown up here. I have grandchildren now growing up here. And I know that my true calling after 30 years in the fire department is serving the community. During those 30 years, I met a lot of people. I had a lot of things to do that were very difficult. But one thing I found in my last 14 years as captain, I had a lot of tough decisions. Some of those decisions were life and death decisions. They were not easy to make. And I know on municipal council there's decisions that have to be made. And sometimes it takes a lot of guts to make those decisions. But sometimes you have to learn to say no. And there's a lot of people that come forward in this town and they want. But I think as a councillor, once in a while you gotta stop up and say, you know what? What we have to do here is for the majority of the people in this town, not just a few. We have to make sure that the dollars and cents we spend are for the benefit of everybody. I know that's tough because we gotta supply buildings like this and we want to keep our children active. sometimes we're going to have to make really tough decisions. And I think as a member of council, I work with a team, and I look at the people here, and I know if you people get involved, pick a good team to work with, and we can make some of those decisions. I know there's efficiencies that can be found. Yes, the taxes are high, we all know that. But I think we can work together, find efficiencies within the town, and along with the other candidates in the same here, we can do a good job. Thank you.
Okay. And we'll hear now from Teresa Rickerby.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thanks for coming in. My name is Teresa Rickerby, and I'm running for Cobourg Town Council. I'd like to just give you a little bit of background for those who don't know me. I am a 43-year-old homeowner, wife, and mother of 3 elementary school-age children here in town. I'm also an entrepreneur. I own and successfully operate 2 retail stores in downtown Cobourg together with my business partner, Heather. And we've been doing that now for almost 15 years. I'm very fortunate to be the chair of the DBIA, which represents Cobourg's largest employer with over 200 businesses in our downtown core. We are very proud to say that the DBIA employs over 1,200 people. I'm running for council because I feel that I bring a fresh perspective, progressive and proactive approach to leadership, as well as the skills and experience that I've acquired over 20 years in business development, retail sales, marketing, communications, customer service, which I think is key, and also my volunteer experience. I also feel that I feel a need for a demographic that is not currently represented on council. I feel that we need a very clear and focused approach to the kind of town that we want to be, followed by realistic goals that are attainable. And like other people have been saying, we need action and positive results. I love living in Cobourg. I really do. I'm very fortunate to be here. And I want to help create a town that prospers, a type of community where our children don't want to leave. We want to keep the young people here. I believe that with the right team, and I think that's very important to note, and others have said it as well, we're here to elect a team. So with the right team, that we can make Cobourg the best small town in Ontario.
Okay. Next, we'll hear from John Lee.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Lee, and I'm running for Cobourg Councillor. You'll be able to recognise me. I'm the one with the strange accent. I moved to Canada in 1977, and I moved to Cobourg 15 years ago. Since that time, I've operated and been involved in various business enterprises and 3 condominium developments so far in the downtown of Cobourg. Our companies are very involved in investment and development of the downtown. I contemplated running for council 4 years ago in 2010. I decided not to do that, but I decided that this year was perhaps the time that I should. During the last 4 years, we've had the CCC, we've had the liquor store, potentially moving out of downtown, we've had the Legion development, we've had downtown revitalization issues, and now we've got the marina. I would have liked to have been involved, and in fact I was involved to some extent. I made speeches and presentations to council. I've attended council a great deal of times over the last few years. I've got very many ideas, very many of them, and you'll find most of them on my website. My website is not surprisingly called johnlee.net. You'll find on there a wealth of ideas of how I think we can change things, and I'll just review in summary what I'd like to do. I think we all agree that it's time for some change. This is probably a question of what change. The big issue that seems to come to everybody's brain is taxes. I've got very strong ideas on how to change our tax structure. We could, for example, merge the Port Hope and Cobourg police services. We could establish a new station highway between the 2 towns. We could have substations in both towns. That would satisfy everybody. We could consider disposing of other various assets in the town, including the PUC and the district park. There's many ways to reduce our tax bill. On top of that, we can take that money and we can use some of it for revitalization, which we are very strong on. Thank you very much.
Next, we'll hear from Aaron Burchett.
Hello, my name is Aaron Burgat, and I'm running for Cobourg Council because I feel that we need change. And with that change, we need to get younger people involved. and that is why I stepped forward. As the youngest candidate running, I have 3 children. I work for a local business where I service telephone systems as well as security systems. Through that, I feel that we need to treat the town of Cobourg and the people like customers. And one of the things that I strive to do within my business is great customer service. We need to make Cobourg attractive to all demographics, as well as we can't forget there are a lot of families with young children, and that's not just young people like myself, that's anyone from the age of 20 up to 50 with children. I'm very interested in developing the town but maintaining its natural charm. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Larry Sherwin.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming. I currently sit on the Cobourg Town Council, and I agree with Forrest Brown that we have worked well together, and we've brought Cobourg to its next stage in its evolution. And I think together with you here and with the new team you elect, we can do more. One thing I do want to address tonight, and I think it needs to be addressed because I might not get a chance to say anything later on. Everyone here is concerned about our harbor. I'll tell you right now, and we can take this to the bank, there is no plan yet. We have a consultant building a plan that will come back to our steering committee. It will come back to you folks that I'm looking at right now for final consultation. And whatever that is decided on will be how we move forward with the harbor. No matter what you've heard, what you've been told, or what you've read, there is nothing out there. There's some misinformation floating around. Please do not listen to it. There is no plan for our harbor. There are concepts and ideas that we'd like to see, but with the group of people, the users, and you folks here, we will make our harbor more of a jewel than we have right now. Concerns? Yes, jobs concern me in this town. I'm a person myself who recently lost his job because his factory moved into town. It is a concern for the young folks. There's nothing here. We need to attract more. Our downtown, it needs work. We need to keep it and put it back in place so we can use it the way it needs to be used. Heritage, it's a concern. We need to make heritage available to the young people so they understand what heritage means. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Gudrun Ludorf Weaver.
Good evening, everyone. It's just so wonderful to see you all. And obviously it shows the incredible interest and investment that you all have in this upcoming election. And I'm really hoping that I'll have the opportunity to represent you on council, your concerns and ideas for Cobourg, with my focus on sustainability. And that encompasses not just the environment. I hug trees, yes I do, but I also hug people, my dog, my grandchildren. So we need to include the elements of social sustainability as well as economic sustainability. And with that partnership, we will see results. And I'm committed to doing things better and smarter, solving problems in a way that's collaborative, always considering the triple bottom line, the environment, society, and economics. Let's start, first of all, by looking at how our infrastructure is meeting the needs of our seniors, of our transportation, our active transportation, and climate change. The Kamouraska Conservation Authority just put out a report that is addressing how climate change is going to affect us in the next little while, including the fact that we are a watershed shared with Port Hope, and that we need to be proactive about the kind of weather that is going to hammer us in the next little while. We also, boy, that went fast. We also need to make it a priority that we look at our climate action plan. We are definitely looking at.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will listen to Dave Black.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dave Black, and I want to give back to my hometown. Growing up in Cobourg taught me values that have carried with me throughout my life, such as courtesy, leadership, and caring for your neighbors. I returned to Cobourg 5 years ago because this is where I want to spend the rest of my life. After graduating from Cobourg East, I studied and then worked in advertising and graphic design in Toronto and Montreal for 30 years, including running my own business for 11 years. In my work, I launched 3 television channels, developed marketing for 4 large banks, and worked in the recording, television, and film industries. I hope to use my business experience and creativity to make Cobourg a better place to live. Now it's time for common sense, consultation, and care. Residents deserve effective and logical decision-making that follows best practices and makes best use of town resources, even if that includes a referendum. We have many small industries that are working hard to keep Cobourg alive. However, Cobourg needs more good, solid employment opportunities for its citizens. As for education, Cobourg can be very proud of the outstanding primary and secondary options we have for all our children. One piece of the puzzle currently missing is a solid post-secondary education. Who would have thought even a few years ago that Oshawa would have a university? It's already making a huge difference to that community. While we are not as large as our neighbor, with some determination and vision, we can explore options for this town. One example would be working in partnership with the university to bring a degree program such as nursing to a campus right here in Cobourg. With your support, I want to help build a bright future in the town we all love.
Thank you. And finally, we'll hear from Wayne DeVoe.
Good evening. My name is Wayne DeVoe, and I am running in this election for a position for councillor for the town of Cobourg. I have knocked on several hundreds of doors during this campaign and spending the time and listening. And what I am hearing over and over is that the residential taxes are too high. It is important that the new town council continues building a vital commercial and industrial tax base to maintain a reasonable residential tax base. This new council has to work together to encourage and entice new business and industry. As a team player, I am committed to working with council, town staff, and the community to be proactive in seeking solutions to current and future issues that affect our whole community. It is imperative that we support and protect the integrity of the downtown. This new council must support and encourage our downtown and its business owners. We must maintain the vitality of our waterfront, and I believe the west side of the harbor should be left open. Council cannot work alone, but must partner with the community as its key stakeholder. And I believe we must listen to what our citizens have to say as we grow and shape a healthy and promising future for Cobourg. I believe passionately in Cobourg, and am eager to be part of its future. My background and experience working with the town of Cobourg gives me the confidence to ask for your support. And finally, let us not forget how very fortunate we are to live in a country that allows us the freedom and opportunity to make choices.
Thank you. And that concludes the opening remarks from all our candidates for Cobourg Town Council. We will now move to the questions from the floor. And I know somebody remarked about how fast that went. We thought 2 minutes went by quickly. Just a reminder, you have 60 seconds to respond to the questions here for each of, and we will continue to go in order. So our first question for all our candidates, please highlight the key elements that in your estimation would have the most impact on Cobourg's downtown vitalization. So highlight the key elements that in your estimation would have the most impact on Cobourg's downtown vitalization. And we'll begin with Deborah McCarthy.
Well, one of the issues in the downtown is, and Johnny said it well, is there have to be things to do, places to eat at and activities to do. And it's quite a burden on the businesses that are there and the empty storefronts to carry that. So I believe we have to find a way to make the downtown more attractive year-round. And one of the things that has to be looked at, because I used to be the event and business manager for DBI, and it's a perennial problem, but it's one that we really need to problem solve with the business owners in the town, and that is to stay open Sunday. Because when people have leisure time in the community, they go downtown and they're more than the stores that are there are closed. So that issue has to be done. And the other thing is customer service, that people feel welcomed. There are a few owners that you walk in there and you think, that's the best part of my day, I've been welcomed. And people drive to Cobourg because of the customer service that's on.
And next we'll hear from Johnny Perkins.
Okay. Obviously, an issue with the downtown, I think, is parking. Spending $150,000 for new parking meters, in my opinion, is not the right answer. I'd like to see the community involved and maybe come up with some ideas. At another event that we had, I was talking to some people about maybe a shuttle bus. Elgin Street to downtown is all of maybe 2 kilometers. A shuttle bus can go up and down within a few minutes. It could be going around the clock, bringing visitors to downtown. I'm not sure if it would be free, maybe you can pay $1, whatever you want, but it would eliminate more cars coming downtown. And of course we need to see entertainment downtown. That's the main reason for people to come downtown.
And next, Forrest Rowden.
Thank you. 30 years of free parking in downtown hasn't proved to me that there's any new stores that are coming forward. There's still a lot of empty stores. So I've seen a little seed money to go into the town of Cobourg in order to get a facelift. We have people that own property downtown that want taller places. It's a tough situation to solve. I think we had a new facelift for the downtown. That's seed money to fix up the places that need some repairs. And we proceed with caution because you look across Ontario today and you'll see every downtown that is in bad shape. And I'm talking about Oshawa, Peterborough, and you're all the way to London and area. So it's not an easy task, and this council has worked hard to try and get a new start on this.
Brian Darling.
I agree with John. I think the entertainment, I love what Port Hope did with the Capitol Theatre. I think the Park Theatre downtown, we can do the same thing, but it's going to take community involvement. A lot of people are asking for these things to be done, but we as a team got to go there. We got to support the downtown. Store owners have their businesses. Do we all go there? Do we shop? Do we spend our money downtown? We can't ask for it to be vibrant without us participating in it. So I think the entertainment, restaurants, get downtown, spend some money, enjoy it. Let's pull the Gemma Park 1 block north up to King Street. Let's move it up. Let's let everybody enjoy it. But you got to chip in, folks.
Teresa Rickerby.
Thank you. I think the most important thing with creating a vital downtown is we need to have a healthy and attractive business climate. And I think there's a great plan in place that we need to get implemented. So the Venture Capital Corporation that's currently out for in development right now, I think is going to be very successful to encourage people to come in and buy buildings and fix them up. I'd like to see an incubator for small and mid-sized business. The wayfinding signage that is on its way needs to be implemented, drawing people down from the 401 corridor, making it easier to find our downtown. And I would like to see a strong focus on attracting small grocery back into our downtown core. We're trying to encourage people to fix up their uppers and have a pedestrian type of lifestyle in downtown, we need the basic infrastructure.
Okay, and the question is highlighting the key elements that would have the most impact on Cobourg's downtown vitalization. John Wade.
This is a very big subject, and I'm just going to go over the headings because there's too many details to try and cover in this presentation. First thing I'm going to go for is investment, both private and public. Number two, I will be looking at taxes, and including taxes I am involved in DBIA in this. Other towns have DBIAs which are not DBIAs, or PIAs, and that embraces all the businesses within the community. The other parts of the community benefit from a healthy downtown. Alliston is an example of this. After that, I would look at making Cobourg into a Four Seasons tourism town, which is something we talk about, but do little about. I agree entirely about parking. The parking is an issue which is never, in my opinion, being correctly addressed. I think we need different businesses. I don't think we need the sort of businesses that we've had so far. And for that, we need to go and copy other towns. Take a ride around and see what other towns are doing and attract those businesses to downtown Cobourg.
Aaron Burkhead.
One of the things that I feel that we need to do with the downtown is direct people down there, and whether it's through the signage or even the signage from the beach, because there's a lot of people that will come to the beach, but then they just kind of bypass the downtown. So if there's ways to push those people from the beach, whether they're people coming from out of town or they're in town, to push them down there and attract them. One thing in particular that I did notice was there's a gentleman down there that rents kayaks and canoes, and I didn't know about that until I approached him. But things like that push people down from the beach up to there that are tourists, and then hopefully they will see the rest of the businesses and eat down there, because there's lots of lovely places down there to eat, and we need those flagship places kind of to draw those people down there.
Larry Sherwin.
Bottom line, I think it's store hours. When I went to high school in this town, we would go downtown after school or after 5 o'clock and the stores would be open. They used to be closed on Wednesdays, but open on the weekends. I think the business owners themselves have to buy into being open a little more to make our downtown more vibrant. If the store is closed and someone comes to our harbor, they're not going to come up. They're not going to come down. The stores are closed, the doors are locked. We need those store owners to buy in with the town to make our downtown more vibrant.
Wiggren Ludorf Weaver.
Sounds so impressive when someone else says it. For sure, I mean, everybody on the panel here has made the suggestions that I'm pretty sure all have thought about. Certainly, I think the hours, extending the hours is crucial. I would think on a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday. The parking, I'm ambivalent about that. I think that there's, ways that we can go around having areas for the citizens where the citizens are not paying parking, but maybe the tourists do. What I would like to see is also various different places where people can go, and I have my sights set on the tannery site, making that maybe an area where we can have a farmer's market all week, like they do in St. John's and in other places in different provinces in Canada.
Dave Black.
Yeah, I believe it's weekend events. Montreal, they call them festivals. Toronto followed those fashion and become very successful. If we can get some more weekend events going here in the same manner, whether it's Just for Laughs or a comedy festival or what we're doing right now, and I've spoken to people for downtown, and they're going to take the coal train event, and because it was not that successful because it was one day alone and it rained every time it ran. Now they're looking at putting it the same day as the Sandcastle event. I think that's brilliant. You're already going to have 15,000 people in town. Now you're going to have music playing downtown. You're going to attract people. I think this is the way to look at that, the way to go. If we build up these weekends, we can't do full weekends like cities, but we certainly can attract people for the weekend.
Wayne DeVoe.
Thank you. The Downtown is really an important part of the overall town, and it's probably one of the most important. Its history is in the downtown. A lot of the buildings need repair, and some unfortunately are being left, even though perhaps the money's there to do it, but they're not. They're still getting rent, so they take it. Entertainment, again, I believe is a very good thing. Some of the music downtown is great. You know, these pianos all over the place? That was terrific. I really enjoyed that. And I believe that longer hours are needed, opening on Saturday and Sunday. You can go out to the hospital area, to a couple of establishments up there, and find that you can get in any time of day. Facelift, more events, special events.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, directed at all our candidates, and an issue that has been raised that many are aware of. So anyway, it goes like this. Local employment rates are significantly higher than the provincial average, and the migration of our youth to larger urban centers in search of work has resulted in a population that is significantly older than the provincial average. In this competitive market, how can Cobourg attract investment by potential employers, and what sector should be targeted? So the main meat of the question, in this competitive market, how can Cobourg attract investment by potential employers, and what sector should be targeted? We will start this time with Johnny Percolides.
I think in order to be able to attract employers, we need to have a base of employees, and the employees are going to come from young families. It's not going to be the senior citizens, obviously. A project out in Saskatchewan that they were doing, they were paying off the student loans to attract university graduates from all over the country. Now, I'm not sure if we can do something like that, but we have to be thinking of different ways. So it starts by attracting the young families and having a base of employees in order to attract employers. Because at the moment, if we can't attract employers to come here, there's nobody to work. There's nobody that age demographic.
Thank you. Forrest Rowden.
Yes, thank you for the question. Local employment, as far back as I've noticed, that has been attracted by large companies that will move into an area. As you know, and it's happened a lot of times, is our free trade and all those kind of things have moved to the U.S., Mexico, and China. I can remember when there was about 30 different large industries in this town. They left because of those reasons. I think what we've got to look at now is federal, provincial government stepping up to the plate here and helping us with technology jobs, all communication things across the world. We're not going to get automotive industry here anymore. It's gone forever, you might say. But I'd certainly like to see that we get some well-educated young people that know their technology and be able to move into the market and look into computers, communications, any kind of type of technology that could be funded by the federal and the provincial government.
Brian Darling.
I think Forrest just stole my platform there. I agree. I think we've got to get into the communications area, bring in businesses that can promote that kind of industry in our town. I know it's going to be difficult. North America-wide, everybody's struggling to attract industry, to attract jobs. It's a big chore, and again, we're going to have to get the governments on side with us to work in this capacity. It's going to be very difficult, and I don't think it's an easy question to answer. Thank you.
Okay, once again, just been asked to remind everybody about speaking loudly and clearly and to be able to ensure that everyone hears what you have to say. Just keep that in mind, and we will move on to answer the question next. Teresa Rickerby.
Thank you. Business attraction is key. Again, I'm going to just reiterate that we need to have a climate that is attractive for people to come. So that means almost a one-stop shopping when you come to Cobourg. Everything is laid out for you. We make it nice and easy. We need to reinvigorate our economic development department to start thinking outside of the box, and they have been doing a great job by attracting business in the Whole Foods market. There's a great market that's growing. Innovation and technology is very important. National Shunt Service is a great company here in Cobourg that has taken the trucking industry and made a name for themselves internationally through their software program. So innovation, technology, niche market, very, very important in business incubation. That's the way we're going to get business in Cobourg.
John Lee.
This has got to be one of the few times that I've heard prospective councillors not talk about attracting large industry. Every time they talk about it, I always smile because unfortunately it's not coming back. You're hearing quite a lot of truth today. Technology, transportation, everything else that we've actually got and can retain and build upon is already here. So is the tourism base. We've got 401, we've got the VOL. We could encourage the Go Bus. We could encourage items such as that to revitalise our downtown, bring small business, perhaps small engineering, small industry. We'll never get a big plant. Let's be realistic. Let's try and be Toronto's little brother, and let's try and bring tourism from there on a regular basis as one example, or from other big cities. And then we can build our town up with other types of leisure industries. Thank you.
Aaron Burkhead.
As somebody in the technology industry, I feel that that is one strong thing that we need to obtain here in Cobourg. One example of this recently that just came up, actually in Peterborough, is the call center that has come back to Canada. It is going to create 400 jobs in Peterborough. So we need to attract places like, and that's actually from Bell Canada, people. The people at Bell Canada realize now that they need to have people on the other end of the phone that can talk to the people where they know it's cold outside and there's an issue. So attracting places like that, kind of jobs like that to the town of Cobourg is what we need to do.
So again, the question of dealing with unemployment rates and the migration of our youth to larger centres, and in this competitive market, how can Cobourg attract investment by potential employers and the sector that should be targeted? Next is Larry Sherwin.
I feel all sectors should be going after. There isn't one sector of jobs out there that we shouldn't approach and try to bring to our town. I look out every night and I see a lot of faces that are very employable. I know what I've gone through trying to find a new job. And with the experience sitting here, we can help the young people stay here. We can teach. We've learned what it takes to have a good job and how to make those jobs move forward. There isn't one sector we shouldn't explore in our town.
Gudrun Rudolph Weaver.
Well, having had 43 years as an educator and wearing many, many hats, one of the things that I thought we should be looking at is what are the various educational institutions preparing our young people to do. So Fleming has ecosystem management technology, prefabricated straw bale wall technology, sustainable building design and construction, environmental technology, urban forestry technician. So it seems to me that those young people would be an asset to have if we moved into those sorts of directions here in terms of green technology. I know that, I think it's in Durham, at Durham College, they're also doing solar panel installations. We know that we have a Green Energy Act that is supporting looking at green alternatives for creating a better future for our
Dave Black.
Well, we don't want a company that doesn't suit our town. That is just the first place to start. After that, Larry, any company may be of use to us. We have to do market research and do studies. We have to find out what companies are actually expanding south of the border or here in Canada. And then we have to contact these companies and we've got to ask these companies, will you come to Canada? Will you come to Ontario? Would you mind coming to Cobourg? It's not just going to be one step at a time. These companies don't know who we are, and we have to get information to them to explain who we are and what we give to them. And there's right now every town in Ontario doing that. So we want to get our name out there to each place, to the ones that are growing, not every place out there.
Wayne DeVoe.
A lot of things have already been suggested. One of the things that I would like to see is that we need a director to promote more companies to come in to Cobourg, to go out of Cobourg and try to find some of these areas. We have a whole staff there with lots of information in Dresser House that we could utilize to expand our downtown area and the all over, excuse me, I was off on this one. But I think that the base is already there to work with. We have the information at Dresser House that could be utilized, only we need a key person to take that out and develop it. Thank you.
And Deborah McCarthy.
Well, I can look out at the audience and see our economic development because, yes, we have an older demographic and that's actually going to be the source of our future because, guess what? We're going to live in our homes much longer. We want to and we need to. With the aging demographic of boomers, I'm one of them, I'm already doing the things to let that happen. And so I spend money locally. I want the skilled workers in this town that can come and renovate, the plumbers, the electricians. And so we need to emphasize trades. And as Gudrun said, all the alternative energy programs that we want to build into our houses, insulation. I have an aluminum roof. I've cut my heating bills by 35%. So and guess what? Freedom 85 here. Johnny, there's lots of people to work because I won't be retiring and some of us will come in and out of it. So I actually see a very healthy future for Cobourg.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on now to transportation question. Initial findings of the County Transportation Survey identified a high use of carpooling, Via Rail and Go Bus were available. How will you work to bring Go Bus and other forms of transit to Cobourg? So how will you work to bring Go Bus and other forms of transit to Cobourg? Yeah, that's the question. We'll begin with Forrest Rowden.
Well, thank you very much. That's a great question because I've already been involved in that. I work very closely with our MPP, Lou Rinaldi, and I know for a fact that that's been discussed at the provincial level. I know that they come as far as Newcastle now. We're just looking at a time that may be the right for that to happen, and I think that it's in the making. At least the bus service from Cobourg to Oshawa for the GO system. Via Rail is being used quite well here in town, and actually I think the parking is one of the biggest issues. And I know there's a lot of people coming back and forth from the city at that new train station. I think the price is one thing. I think we really got to look at the province and the federal government to look at it better to reduce rate for people that do work in the big city so that they can at least get back and forth without using the 401.
Thank you. Now if we could swing the microphone over to Brian Darling.
I agree. I think we have to lobby the governments for this, the provincial and federal government. We have to get them involved because this is not going to happen overnight. The GO train, the bus, I mean, we see the train coming a little further every so many years. The GO bus, for instance, is coming to Newcastle. We have to lobby the government and lobby out. But again, it can't be just us in council. It's got to be everybody out there. We've got to form a group of people that really want this to come. And we've got to have our voices be heard.
Teresa Rickaby.
Thank you. Bringing people in from the outer lying areas and the metropolitan areas into Cobourg is going to benefit us. It's going to make it easier for people to live here and work here from outside areas, and then increasing our economic benefit. We are going to have to work with the province. We're going to have to see, is that something that's a priority? And will the council actually make that a priority? And that would be the first step. I would also like to see more efficiency within our transportation locally and our buses. I think that's important too with what we're doing. doing. So we're going to have to work together with the government to make it happen and see if it's a priority for the people.
John Lee.
Well, I think this is actually a big issue because, let's frankly, let's be honest about it, a lot of people in this town do not want to see this to be a place to grow. That's where you're going to get a GO train and you're going to get GO buses sooner. And we do businesses in other towns where they brought these various transportation methods, but only because the population's been there to sustain them. So the big question is, does Cobourg want to grow like that or not? If it doesn't want to grow like that, we shouldn't be talking about it, but we should be talking about the GO bus. I see nothing wrong with that, and I think that should be encouraged, and I mentioned that earlier on. The way to do this is obviously to lobby hard. Don't get consultants spent downtown revitalisation, get lobbyists in Queen's Park, and let's move on.
Erin Burkett.
I agree, getting these kind of services to Cobourg would benefit us, whether it's people commuting to their jobs in the city or people commuting to us to bring them down to see our stuff here. So I feel we need to work with the higher levels of government to get this done.
Yes, we're talking about the availability of Via Rail and GO Bus, and how will you work to bring GO Bus and other forms of transit to Cobourg. Larry Sherwood.
It's already been said, that's right. We have to work with our government to bring more trains here. One complaint I've heard that Via is taking away some of the trains. No, we must keep more trains on the tracks to make it easy for people to get to Toronto without the cars. And as far as the bus goes, hopefully someday it will reach us, but I think right now, Via is our main connection. We need to pursue that.
Goodrick Rudolph Weaver.
Well, transportation is a huge issue also for keeping our younger population, because many of them have jobs outside of Cobourg, so transportation is huge, and we want to make sure that there are alternatives to the car. And most definitely, I think we need to find a champion on council, a champion that is going to rally us together to lobby, and we have to lobby the provincial government as well as the federal government in order to let them hear the voice that's saying, you know, we need better service, we need better infrastructure for us to have a viable community.
Dave Black.
Yes, I have to agree with what's already been said. I do believe we have to lobby it, and I do believe we should have the GO train and the GO bus. As far as I can figure out, if I go down to that train station, take a look at that new station, it's got an access on both sides. And the only reason we seem to need that is for actually a GO bus. Because we've been able to get by with Via train on one side forever. And I don't imagine Via's going to start setting it up so they've got the access for the other side. So I have a feeling that all that station work is already being done to put the things in place so that GO is ready to come here at some point. And that's a good thing, because we're ready for it anyway.
Wayne DeVoe.
I think all has been said in that regard. It's lobbying provincial and federal governments to push the GO, for example. I agree that it's now very effective, and it could be open on the other side as well. I wish to use a lot of the information at Westerhouse again. I keep mentioning Westerhouse only because there's a raft of information and ideas that have already been collected there. And I think through that office, we would find several different opportunities. It's hard to throw them out on an event like this, but we need some time to study and work with that group in Westerhouse, and I'm sure you will find many of these ideas have already been expressed one way or the other, and the do's and don'ts as to why we should or shouldn't. Thank you.
Deborah McCarthy.
Well, I'm coming at this from a different place. I've just spent 4 years commuting to Cobourg back. That's coming to an end. So I can tell you that in my how I respond to quality of life, for 2 hours of my day sitting in a car, it is how I earn my living. I don't like it. And the United Nations measures a quality of life index by being able to walk to work. However, there are people that will choose to find employment outside. So if we are going to have public transportation, I would support the railway, because I don't see the 401 as the solution. The gridlock is already starting to happen up to Oshawa and past, fortunately not past. And I don't want to see expansion of the 401. I want us to see other methods of transportation. Thank you.
And Johnny Perklees.
My understanding of the question at the beginning was, how would you lobby government to get the GO train out here? I'll tell you right now, there's no way the GO train will ever come to Cobourg. We don't have the population. If it did, it would cost like $50 to get to Oshawa. On top of that, I don't think a lot of people want to see the town grow, so I don't think I'd waste my time lobbying for the GO train to come out here. The GO bus, that would be a possibility, but the GO train, never. We don't have the population.
Okay, thank you for your answers to that question. Just a reminder that we are collecting questions for candidates for council, deputy mayor, and mayor. So if you have any, just raise your hand, they'll come around and collect them for you. Our next one is, well, we might call this a bit of a lightning round because we're not doing 60 seconds, it's more like about 3 seconds. What it is you need to answer, and I'll give you what you need to answer with after I ask the question the first time around. But it's one of those either-or type answers, and we would ask that you would respect that and stick with it. The question is, do you agree with the mayor casting a tie-breaking vote as opposed to a tie vote defeating the motion and returning the matter to council for further debate? So your answer is either tiebreaker or return for debate. Does everyone understand? Okay, so your answer to the question is either tiebreaker or return for debate. That's all you need to say. So again, do you agree with the mayor casting a tie-breaking vote as opposed to a tie vote defeating the motion and returning the matter to council? So the first person we'll start with is Brian Darling.
Return to council for debate.
Teresa Rickerby.
Tiebreaker.
John Lee.
My first word is wow, and the second answer is return for debate.
Aaron Burkhead.
Tiebreaker.
Larry Sherwin.
Tiebreaker.
Gudrun Ludorf-Weaver.
Debate.
Dave Black.
Return for debate.
Wayne DeVoe.
Return for debate.
Deborah McCarthy.
Tiebreaker.
Johnny Perklees.
Definitely return for debate.
And Forrest Rowley.
Tiebreaker, because that's what the mayor's elected for.
Thank you very much. Everybody handled that extremely well. That's great. So we move along to our next question. And this one is, Cobourg seems to have a high number of vacant commercial properties on prominent locations. Would you support limiting reduced property taxes on vacant buildings to 1 year, or what other incentive would you propose to inspire property owners to be more aggressive in their search for commercial tenants? Yes, I will repeat that. It is a bit of a mouthful. Once again, Cobourg seems to have a high number of vacant commercial properties in prominent locations. Would you support limiting reduced property taxes on vacant buildings to 1 year? Or what other incentive would you propose to inspire property owners to be more aggressive in their search for commercial tenants? And we'll begin with Teresa Rickerby.
My understanding of that question is, would we support reducing the taxes for a year as an incentive? Is that what we're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
reduce property taxes.
Of course,
for 1
what
year.
I would like to see is to reduce property taxes for people that are fixing their buildings up. Currently, the way it stands right now in our downtown, we're incentivizing people to keep them empty. I think that's a mistake, and I think that we should be incentivizing people to fix their buildings up. So that's my answer.
John Lee.
As a large investor in downtown Cobourg, I'm going to have to declare a conflict of interest in this question.
Aaron Burkhead.
I kind of agree with the 1 year, but you almost have to do it like on every other, because if you do it for 1 year, then a lot of people, it helps the initial startup of the business to get them involved, but then the problem is you've got to also give them an incentive
continue to stay.
Larry Sherwood.
I think we should have a tax rate for active buildings. People who renovate their building and put it back into the system, whether it be apartments or businesses, I think that's what the tax rate should be. It should reverse the old one that's in place right now and gives them tax rates for empty buildings. It should be a tax rate for an active building.
Rudolph Weaver.
Well, I think that, a lot of good ideas have come up, certainly. I agree with what Larry just said, but I was in London not too long ago, in London, England, and they had this very similar problems, believe it or not. And they had this idea of doing, I forget the exact term, it's a pop something or other. So there are businesses that come into a vacant storefront and set up shop. And so the store's not empty, and they are, able to bring vibrancy to the streetscape, and they don't have to pay a huge amount of rent. And then they move to another store that is vacant, and they pop up. I think it was neat.
Dave Black.
No, I do not support the vacant tax. I would have to consider other options. I don't know what they would be at this point. Or maybe some way to give a tax break to someone who gets started, but I wouldn't do it for a year or that much money.
Wayne DeVoe.
I feel the same. I feel reducing the property taxes for people who are fixing up their projects would be helpful, and I think it get the programs going faster.
Deborah McCarthy.
I think a one-year property tax break is not a very sustainable idea for an actual business plan, because you would, assuming the landlord would pass that on to the business knows darn well that the expenses are going to go up. I think the landlords that want to rent their space are also going to have to work with economic development in the town of Cobourg to pitch the whole quality of life in Cobourg that brings businesses that want to stay and stay in business long term.
Johnny Perkalides.
I would definitely agree with reducing the property tax for commercial property owners who are going to reinvest the money in renovating their space. It would be on a percentage base, so for whatever amount they contribute to the renovation, they get a certain amount off their taxes. We have way too many commercial properties downtown where the second floor is vacant, it's probably not safe, it's being occupied by bats.
Yes, our question on supporting reduced property taxes on vacant buildings for 1 year, or other incentives to inspire property owners to search for commercial tenants. And next, Forrest Rowley.
Yes, well, I'd certainly like to see more people get involved with renovating the downtown. We have a lot of residential space above a lot of stores downtown that can be used, and I know some of them have already. But to do that, you really have to have an incentive in place for those people to go ahead with it. I think you seed money to get them started. There's fire regulations. There's a lot of problems, and that's what happens when they go to get something done, is because of the building code. The building code doesn't allow people to live above the stores that are fire trapped. So it's a real dilemma in this day's codes. We have to work with the province and try to get some things changed in regards to vacant property taxes. Vacant property taxes should not be reduced if a person doesn't put any incentive into place to really put something there. There's too many places boarded up downtown because of too many people that have a lot of money, they just ignore them.
Brian Darling.
Yes, I would agree that we could give a tax break to them if they went in and fixed up the buildings on Forest to say. Right now, these buildings are sitting empty, paying very little or no tax. We could give them a break, maybe phase it in over time, or else, like you say, every other year. So this year you'll get a tax break, next year you may not. The taxes will be phased in a certain percentage every year. And these people got to really step forward and prove to us that they deserve these breaks and that they are going to fix their buildings up and make them sustainable for years to come.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next question we have here, besides taxes and the West Harbour, what major issues do you anticipate to see coming before council in the next term? So besides taxes in the West Harbour, what major issues do you anticipate to see coming before council in the next term? And we'll begin with John Lee.
Thank you. This place would be one example of what I'd be concerned about. This is losing about $1 million a year, or close to it. And I'm very concerned about that because I thought this was going to be revenue neutral when it was built. Apart from that, I'd like to see a lot of the initiatives that I mentioned before, like a possible merger of the police services, which will in fact reduce taxes. But it leads back to the tax break situation. I'd obviously like to see the revitalisation moved on in a very fast way. All these studies and all these placards and things on the buildings and consultants. Let's do something and let's make that a major priority. People move to Cobourg because of our heritage, I think. They could move to the town. They admire our heritage, but they want to see it looking good. And we all do. And that's for the benefit of every citizen of Cobourg.
Aaron Burkhead.
Could you repeat the two issues that we're not talking about?
Oh, taxes in the West Harbour.
Okay. I feel one of the issues that is going to come up within the next council that is pretty important, I feel, is the infrastructures of things to attract the younger families and people to stay in Cobourg.
Okay, Larry Sherwood.
This one's simple. Facing the council in the next 4 years, our downtown and jobs. It's as simple as that. We need to work at both.
Gudrun Ludorf Weaver.
Well, I think one of the things that is foremost in my mind is looking at a Cobourg strategic plan and looking at all of the consultation and reports that have developed implementation goals, and we need to use those and make sure that our budget is going to reflect the ways and means that we can implement the goals that have been set out for us on this, at the level of the strategic plan for Cobourg.
Dave Black.
I have to agree, downtown revitalization or revitalization, jobs, but also want to see post-secondary education. I want to see some people stay in Cobourg.
Wayne DeVoe.
Well, I believe that taxes in the West Harbour are what I like to see. I misunderstood that question, sorry.
Question again, besides taxes in the West Harbour, what are the major issues you anticipate coming before council in this term?
There should be no taxes. Downtown restoration to me is imperative. Actually, if you're going to invest, that's what we should be investing in and helping it out and bringing it along with a program of repayment over time.
Deborah McCarthy.
One of my key platforms in saying say yes to change is how council does its business. And that for me is a main focus of this term for me, and I think it's a huge issue in town. When I knock on doors and meet groups, there's a sense that people aren't informed. They're not informed in a timely manner about something that's very important to them. There's a good start with the website for information, but even I find it difficult to follow the thread of all the information that one wants to take stock of when making a decision. So as a council member, I would like to have and the word is transparency, but there are ways to do it. I want to see that you know what we're doing, you know what staff is recommending, and you are part of our decision and the processes that we can implement to make sure that happens, so you have confidence in our decisions.
Johnny Perkalees.
It's been said, of course, some of the issues that are going to come up as a downtown rejuvenation the creation of employment for youth and for seniors, apparently. And of course, this building, it's also been said, I don't think a lot of people realize this building is not being used a lot, and it's costing a lot of money. And of course, we need more young families in order to be able to enjoy this beautiful building. A swimming pool would have been very nice in this building.
Forrest Rowdy.
Well, yes, thank you. I think actually the completion of the revitalization of the downtown is a huge issue that should be solved in the next council. I would certainly like to see another thing that would happen with a lot more bicycle lanes and walking trails in the town of Cobourg to make Cobourg probably one of the best bicycle-friendly towns in Ontario. And I also agree with have an agreement that we may be able to work with our neighbor to the north on an assessment sharing basis, so that if some big industry did come to this town, we'd have something on paper that would say we could open up probably 50 acres to the west of, we're going to suggest Walmart, but 50 acres of that could open up for an industrial entrepreneurship or whatever the main case may be, communication center. So it's all ideas that all the council's going to have to work together to make things happen. And I hope we get a good young council involved so that we can all work together to do that.
Brian Darling.
Again, all these issues have been reiterated over and over, but I agree with Deborah. I think one issue that we got to work on is you folks coming out and getting more people. We got to get committees, groups, and have a lot more feedback to council. We got to work as a team here, and I think that's an issue that we can work on. I've knocked on a lot of doors that people ask me if I would be open to the citizens of the town being more involved in council. I think the transparency should be here, and I would love to work with groups and do that sort of thing so that we can have more input from you, which would really make council flow and work a lot better. Thank you.
And Teresa Rickerby.
In keeping with the downtown revitalization, I think the council is going to need to deal with the implementation of the Venture Capital Corp, which is a very progressive step in the right direction, I believe. So that's going to be some big change. Dealing with the operational review that was done in 2014, which has not yet been publicized, so that will be on the hands of the new council. Allocation of the funds from Northam Industrial Park. That's a lot of money. We need to decide where that's going to go, and that's a big responsibility. So there's that. The CCC is, of course, a great concern, and we need to figure out ways to increase revenue and usage of this building to offset the tax base that we're paying for.
Okay, thank you all for that one. And we're now going to move on to another question that I guess is on people's minds, well, all the time around here. What is your position with regard to Cobourg's Heritage District? Specifically, how can the town prioritize and support the preservation of heritage buildings? So again, the main question here is, how can the town prioritize and support the preservation of heritage buildings and your position on Cobourg's Heritage District in general? We'll begin with Aaron Burkhead.
So I do believe we need to encourage people to revitalize the heritage parts of the town. I do believe that we need to work with the people that are doing so, and because it does cost a lot of money, and some of these people, as they go through the process, we've got to make it easy on them to do this and have incentives so that they're going to do this kind of stuff to their places, whether it's a home or a business. And we've just got to make sure that going forward, we don't make it a stressful situation on them.
Okay. Larry Sherwin.
I agree. It should be affordable for the families to be owning heritage homes. We have to make it that way, because if we lose our heritage homes, people walk away from them, we've lost our heritage. There's a new master plan coming forward to address a lot of the heritage issues in this town. And within that, I think the guidelines that are built into it will make it easy for young families to be able to come in and work with the town to keep our heritage alive.
Gudrun Ludorf Weaver.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm here, is driving past Cobourg on my way to see my brother and sister-in-law in Kingston stopped in and just fell in love with Cobourg. And it was the heritage component of it. I think that is such a draw for our tourism. It puts us on the map. Not only that, we're on the lake. I mean, two of the most attractive features of our town. I mean, I fell in love with a heritage home. I even bought one. So yeah, there's conservation. There are all kinds of incentives that we can access to, not the least of which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund, so we can access some funding from different agencies to help people with regards to conservation of their heritage home.
Dave Black.
Well, I have to agree with affordable heritage homes, and I have to agree with getting some affordable funding. That's all I can say about it for now.
Wayne DeVoe.
Well, there are already established several historic districts in town now. They are in place. So it's simply offering incentives to the homeowners to compare some of the areas and provide possibly grants or loans on a low interest rate to try to encourage settlement.
Deborah McCarthy.
Hello. When I was the business manager for the DBIA, I was a member of the 150th celebration of the Victoria Town Hall. And what the DBIA did was work with the archives of the library to find the story behind each heritage building. And that was put in the window, and it was like a walking art gallery storytelling. And that's my point. We need to tell the story because that's why we bother with heritage. We're honoring the past, and many of us are very curious about that. So one of the things that I'd be very interested in, so there's buy-in from everybody, and I will say the businesses who really, really wanted to know the story, is the empty storefronts. Let's put up a story. Let's have something there for people to look at, and that creates a community that believes in its heritage. We know it costs extra, but it's worth it.
So our question is the position on Cobourg's Heritage District and how can the town prioritize and support the preservation of heritage buildings? Johnny Percolides.
I think we need to look at my hometown of Montreal and Old Montreal in particular, how they managed to balance their heritage, but at the same time create one of the most exciting entertainment districts probably in the country. Old Montreal.
Forrest Rowley.
Yes, to prioritize the heritage support, I would think that we should go back to the old grant system that we used to have about 20 years ago. I know the province and the feds used to put money into heritage buildings, and if they matched those grants, the municipality would put money up towards it as well, just to help people that really couldn't afford to bring their house up. I know there's a lot of people that can't afford to fix up a heritage home. It costs a lot of money, I understand, probably a little bit more than it would if you're building a modern home today, but probably not very much more. And I know that people are confined to do exactly that, to bring it up to the heritage standards. So I agree we've got to have a great district, but I think that in some cases we have to look at probably some seed money that would support people that can't afford it, and to help them out and make sure that they could get probably an interest-free loan and pay the money back.
Brian Darling.
This is an issue that's close to my heart. I don't know if you people are aware, but my brother and I bought the Poplars in 1990, which is the oldest surviving residences in this town. It was ready for the wrecking ball, and we restored it. So I'm a firm believer in the heritage of our community. I would do everything I could to support that. I do agree with Forrest and seed money and whatnot. Once you lose that heritage, it's gone forever. We've talked about the harbor. If we lose it to what it is now, we've lost it forever. And I agree with the heritage the same way. It's the most beautiful part of our town.
Teresa Rickerby.
Well, I think we all agree that we need to retain our heritage. It is what makes Cobourg unique. And like Larry was saying, is our current heritage master plan is now over 23 years old. So we need to look at how we can retain our heritage buildings, but in a progressive way for the future. So utilizing modern materials to look like original, making it more cost-effective, environmentally friendly and efficient. Most people who come to Cobourg and purchase in heritage homes and heritage buildings do so because they have an interest. So we need to make it easy and accessible.
John Lee.
I think that's absolutely right. The reason why I'm here tonight in Cobourg is because I love Cobourg's heritage, and we're very proud to be involved in developing it. And just on the same lines, I want to mention that we've redeveloped the Gilbert School in dimensions on George Condominium, and the Cobourg Jail is the next on the list. We're going to retain in both cases the heritage nature and the features as best we can in conjunction with modern living. Heritage is Cobourg. Without it, this could be any other town in small Ontario. We have to be consistent though. If I'd have been on council, I would not have supported the Legion. I would not have supported some of the other developments the planning department had passed. I would also like to support the idea of bringing heritage in right from the 401. I've seen it done in other communities, such as Niagara on the Lake. Bring it all the way down, including all the businesses, and then gradually move into the downtown. And finally, put a sign up on the 401 saying heritage downtown this way. We do not have one.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, one more question for our candidates for council, and another issue that has been touched on, but we would like you to, if you could, provide one idea on how you would promote interest in municipal politics among voters under age 40. So an idea on how you would promote interest in municipal politics among voters under the age of 40. And we'll start with Larry Sherwood.
It's a great process. I've had great 4 years here. I've enjoyed all of this. I had a number of conversations. I talked with Teresa. I talked with another young gentleman in town. To get involved, you must make sure that your family is behind you on this. You must make sure the place you work is behind you on this. It takes a lot of time to do this. Don't kid yourself. Council is on its feet pretty well 24/7. But talk with your family. Make sure to talk with the people that are on council. It's great to have young ideas and young faces on council. It's great. I've enjoyed the 4 years.
Gudrun Rudolph Weaver.
Well, one of the perks of when I went to Charlottetown for the conference of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities was speaking with a young woman from northern Canada. I can't pronounce it. And one of the things she was talking about this very issue, and her solution, or one of them, was to be available, to have mornings for the moms to come and have a coffee and a muffin and look at, she had a display of photographs of some of the things that the municipality had done, and have a one-on-one conversation with them. So I think that those are the kinds of things where you're available, there's contact, there's conversation, at different times, whether it's early in the morning for the moms walking with their babies down to the waterfront, or...
Thank you. Dave Black.
Well, I think it's our responsibility to go find them. It's up to us to promote the election to the people that are younger in the environment they're in, through their radio stations, through their workplaces, through homes, and let them know that there's a lot of pride and right behind the right to vote. And that's what we have to get across to them, but we have to do it through their places, not our places. So if it's Twitter, Facebook, we got to find them.
Wayne DeVoe.
I'd like to see youth. Sorry. I would like to see youth from high schools more directly involved in this. I'd like to see them, for example, coming into council chambers on a more regular basis and help them to be actually part of the system and be directly involved in that respect.
Deborah McCarthy.
I think we have to start using technology to let the demographic 40 and under get involved. And what I mean by that is being available to participate in civic life can be very challenging when you're mid-career and you have family. And we're starting to use technology to have meetings for people that are scattered far and wide. It's an efficient way to do it, and that way they can participate even during the day, schedule a meeting so they can get involved in committee work. Because often what happens is the people who can serve on committees are the people who have time, and sometimes that ends up being retirees. But we want to have a balanced viewpoint, and their world is technology, and I think we have to start bringing it. If you want to be a delegation of council, do it through Skype. We can set that up so we can hear their voice.
Okay, so it's an idea on how you would promote interest in municipal politics among younger voters. Under 40, Johnny Percolides.
What a great question. How do we promote the politics to the young people? It starts by showing them the way. It starts by putting your name in on the last possible day to be a candidate for council. Giving them hope that it is possible. It's not that hard. Anybody can really do it if you try. I'm really happy to see at the end of the table one of the youngest candidates for council. He's showing them the way. He's giving them hope. He's showing them that it is possible.
Okay, Forrest Rowden.
Yes, and I'm really glad to see some younger people come forward this trip. I got involved when I was 32 years old. I ran for council and I didn't get elected in the first term. Mind you, I never came back to it until my wife encouraged me to get started again in 1988. I was 48 then. So in that case, it's tough to break into an older system because of the time that people need. They have to be almost retired. Now, I worked with the council at the county level, and we formed a Northumberland Youth Council in 2003, and I never worked with a bunch of better people than some 17, 18, 19-year-olds from all over the county. They now are some of the people that are entrepreneurs. They're some of them working in government jobs in the city of Toronto. But they came forward and they really showed me what they could come up with, new ideas. And I always left that meetings feeling that 25 years younger every time I was there. So we have to promote young people. We have to get them. But they do not have the time sometimes.
Brian Darling.
Yes, I think it's pretty well been said. I know what the town has done in years past is had mayor for a day and fire chief for a day and all that. I'd really like to see us go into the schools, the political science classes, and have them, a high school, elect a council. Go in there and elect a council that's going to come and sit in the council chambers, and that night they're going to get all the issues that come to the council. They're going to sit there and they're going to take our roles as councillors and mayor and whatnot, and then they've got to decide, and then you'll give them a real feel for it. Then they can go back to their schools, tell the rest of their friends what they did again, when they go through the modern technology. It'll get out there fast and the word will spread.
Teresa Riggerby.
I think engagement means more than just encouraging young people to run, but encourage them to care about what happens in their community every day and realize that they too are decision makers. And we have to do that by improving our communications, making communications and the points easy. Again, everything's easy and accessible. They want it fast, they want it now. So we need to look at how we're communicating to the public. I think we need to upgrade that. And I think we need to start using more technology, which we've already talked about again today. We need to have be a little bit more slick. You know, we have to attract people. And there's a, you know, this isn't going to put this out there, but I think we need to be a little sexier.
From there, we move on to John Lee.
Well, Teresa will always be a little sexier than me. I want to respond to this question by saying that, in fact, are we focusing just on the under 40s? Shouldn't we really be focusing on more involvement by everybody? I was the first person to put my name down for the council this year. I was hoping there was going to be meetings actually streamed on the internet between all the candidates. We seem to be left with just one. I think we could have done this and we could have started this a lot sooner, and the voters could have seen us all on the internet, which is very easy to do these days. I think that's a process that should be looked at. Also, all the council meetings should be streamed on the internet. We have them on Cobourg once a month, only for one of the council meetings. We should have the other one streamed on the internet so everybody can be involved. People can be involved if they're down in Florida, Snowbirds, for example. They can be involved if they're in London, England. So I think we need to use technology as suggested. I think we want to get more and more people involved in our democratic process. Thank you.
Okay, and Aaron Burkheim.
Well, first off, obviously the big issue is the making it accessible to people that are younger, because they don't want to go down and register and that kind of stuff. They're living in the digital age. One thing that they did do this year that was very good was the lookupvoter.com, where you could basically register and make sure you're on the list online. Of course, that didn't go the whole time. It wasn't cut off, and I believe that was done through MPAC there. So that's a good way to get people engaged, as well as what I have done, obviously, is put my name forth. So.
Okay. We thank our candidates for council for their answers to the questions, and once again to you for asking them, and keep that coming for the mayor and deputy mayor candidates. That concludes this round for the evening. So once again, thanks to all. Once more, we encourage questions from the floor. We will still be looking to collect them. We cannot guarantee all questions will be included. As you see, time just has a way of moving very quickly on us, but definitely if there are questions that are being asked frequently, we will ensure that those get top priority. So continue to submit them, at least, and Kevin and Peter will come around and collect them from you. So once again, we're doing the candidates for mayor and deputy mayor now, and the format is the same as before. They will have 2 minutes for their opening statements and 1 minute to answer questions from the floor once they come around. And again, it was determined by draw at the beginning of the order. So first of all, candidates for mayor. We would like to hear from, first of all, Miriam Newton.
Thank you. Welcome to everyone here this evening, and a special thank you to the Chamber of Commerce for organizing this very important community event. Citizens of Cobourg asked me, Miriam, why do you want to be mayor of Cobourg? What can you do for our community? I respond, I love this community and I respect the citizens of Cobourg. I have experience in the last 8 years on Cobourg Council. I make sure I am well informed about issues important to you. I am not afraid to ask the tough questions and to investigate important details. This will make my role as your new mayor a role as a leader who will ensure you will be heard. I welcome dialogue, engaging different points of view, because that is where our new ideas are born. As your mayor, I will ensure Town Council has the relevant, accurate information they need to make informed decisions. As your mayor, I will guide Town Council in its duties and responsibilities to you, the citizens of Cobourg. I, Miriam Newton, as your new mayor, will give you my best. I will endeavor to work for you to the best of my abilities and to earn your continued support and confidence over the next term of council. Together we, your elected council, dedicated town staff, and all members of the community will find new ways to connect with what we do well, to ideas and innovation to make Cobourg even better. The citizens of Cobourg tell me they can no longer afford decision-making in the manner of the past. As your mayor, I will guide council in being proactive in its policy and decision-making. Protecting and enhancing our quality of life here at Cobourg is in the best interest of a resilient and progressive future for all citizens of Cobourg, for individuals and for families. Your mayor and council must be able to adapt to change, to be bold, and to be responsible. The measure is equity, access to affordable and reliable services.
Thank you. Our next opening remarks from candidate for mayor, Don Kirkup.
Thank you for coming to this wonderful exercise in democracy. I moved to Cobourg 40 years ago with my family for the quality of life, but basically for health reasons. I was an executive vice president of one of the largest real estate companies in Canada. I worked for CN, and I worked for the Toronto Transit Commission as a consultant. I hope that you've all read my brochure. Of course, it's centered on healthcare, and I think we could make Cobourg the most prosperous, healthiest small town in Ontario. A healthy economy anchored in healthcare can create 500 new jobs. The industrial park run of the town is now a white elephant, so now we have to concentrate on where the growth is going to be. Now, Statistics Canada says there are lots of job openings in the healthcare sector. And if there's one industry that can increase its workforce, that would be healthcare. Medical technologists, lab technicians, respiratory therapists, radiation cardiologists, technologists. One of the lowest unemployment rates is in healthcare. Now, I've been nominated as Caregiver of the Year by Canada Cares. Now, the prize is this world's first factory-built accessible vehicle. And if you like me, Mayor, I'll put it in the Mayor's private parking spot, and from there we will disseminate healthcare information. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate for Mayor, Gil Brockenier.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. And I do appreciate the fact that you're staying even at this late hour, because it is an important event for all the voters of Cobourg. And my years on council are proof of my passion for Cobourg. And I want to make sure we stay on the right path to maintain the quality of life and sense of community that we have and be able to keep it affordable. I will continue to support healthy, controlled growth in our community to achieve this. And as mayor, I attend about 200 events a year and talk to all the citizens. I've knocked on, so far, over 70% of the doors in the town of Cobourg, and I will knock on all of the doors before it's over to hear your concerns. Your concerns are the issues I will work on for the next 4 years, and you have told me consistently those concerns are the local economy, job creation, and taxes. Therefore, I will be continuing my priority of job attraction, retention, and economic development to create a strong industrial and commercial tax base to help offset the residential tax base. And the importance of job retention is underscored by the 276 jobs we've created in the last 2.5 years within our existing businesses. However, there are other important priority projects such as the downtown revitalization. And people ask, will our efforts be effective? I can assure you they will be, and that is why I worked so hard to get a $120,000 grant from the province in funding for this must-do initiative. Our most important asset is our hardware bit. We have to get it right, and it must be done in a way that not only respects the rights of all the user groups and the public, but in fact offers the enhancements they are seeking. You have my guarantee everyone will be included and it will be done right. With these important issues facing us and significant change on council, I feel it is important for a measure of stability on the new council, and I have the proven leadership skills and desire to provide.
Thank you. We'll hear now from our candidates for Deputy Mayor, starting with John Henderson.
First of all, good evening. This month's municipal election marks an opportunity for Cobourg citizens to become engaged and to make choices for good governance for the next 4 years. I believe I have the experience and expertise based upon my 15 years on various municipal advisory committees, 5 years as a member of the Cobourg Police Services Board, and most recently as town councillor assigned to the position of coordinator of planning and development services. I was directly involved in the process that produced our newly town official plan, zoning bylaws. I was also on the steering committee for Northumberland County's very first official plan. Without doubt, I gained extra insights into all types of land planning type issues. In particular, what I'm most proud of in my 4 years is I have constantly strived to be available to all Cobourg citizens and listening to the concerns, adapting and working with them and staff in a team player format to assist them to find resolutions to the concerns. I believe everyone who contacted me in that time, well over 100, I made 100 home visits. Understanding the key issues that face our community in the next 4 years is certainly, I believe, one of my strengths. The key issues are fiscal responsibility, the West Harbour lands, the marina area, our downtown vitalization, and of course, economic development. I believe as your next deputy mayor and with the new council, these will come to the forefront. It's critical that we work with staff, and more importantly, you, the citizens of Cobourg. I believe together can certainly achieve successes for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate for Deputy Mayor, Paul Pagnuello.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to thank you, the citizens of Cobourg, for your time and interest tonight. This election is a bit more than the ideas that all the candidates tonight are offering on building a better Cobourg. Tonight we need to talk about the issues that are important to you. I'm running to be your deputy mayor for several reasons. The principal one being I want to provide Cobourg with the financial stewardship and fiscal foundation that will allow it to prosper and grow for generations to come. Having spent my career in banking, I know when finances are out of balance. I can tell everyone our town's finances and budget are out of balance. Our taxes are too high, our expenses are too high, and our debt is too high. Cobourg is a great town with great potential, and we can grow and prosper if we do the right thing. But it all starts by getting our financial house in order so we can take advantage of future opportunities. In order to make sure that as many citizens as possible have a say in our collective future, I am committed to opening up our town hall far beyond what has been done in the past. I am committed to making sure there is transparency, accountability, and lots of opportunity for public participation. Managing your tax dollars will be my #1 priority, because I believe you need and deserve a deputy mayor who has the financial experience to oversee where, how, why, and on what your money is being spent. As your deputy mayor, I will work closely with council to bring to our town the financial stewardship that it needs and deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next candidate for Deputy Mayor, Donna Todd.
Good evening, everyone. I believe the opportunity exists to find unique solutions in Cobourg for the problems that are very common across all small urban municipalities in Ontario. And those solutions will be found through public discourse, seeking the advice from local experts, utilizing town staff through focused debate. We've had enough of the consultants that we hire on a regular basis. The expertise is here in our own town. My strengths are that I observe, I listen, I learn. I have a strong procedural background, which includes roles in leadership, advocacy, and fiscal responsibility. I'm a great advocate of acknowledging what is working and taking on the challenges of fixing what is not working. And to me, we need to fix our coordinator system on council that by its very nature isolates, hoards information, and it's the inability to see the big picture. And when we have the ability to talk amongst all the elected officials, we need that discourse as opposed to that isolation. And when those operational and financial efficiencies will be found. I will tackle issues head on. I will give voice to all issues and concerns. I will vote on all issues. I'm not afraid to say yes or no. I'm not afraid to make a decision or make a stand, and I respect everyone's opinion, and I love to hear every opinion. That's how we come to those conclusions on where we need to do the work. Thank you.
Thank you. And now that we've heard the opening statements from all our candidates, we will now move to the prepared questions that have come from you in the audience. And these questions, well, this one at least is for all our candidates. It is recognized that the future growth of the Canadian labour market depends on skilled immigrants. Cobourg has historically not been successful in attracting significant numbers of new Canadians to our town. Do you agree this is a priority, and how would you attract skilled immigrants to Cobourg? So the question is about skilled immigrants and new Canadians, and do you agree it's a priority, and if so, how would you attract skilled immigrants to Cobourg? We'll start with Miriam Mouton.
Thank you for the question. I actually am a child of a skilled immigrant. It just happened that some years ago the immigrants looked like the rest of us, perhaps most of us here in this room. These skilled immigrants sometimes have had a very difficult time when they do come here because of promise of jobs that may not materialize. I would like to take this opportunity to let you know that there is a concern about the quality of jobs that are available in Cobourg, and I have to phrase that in terms of the new jobs that are being attracted. If you don't make $15.35 an hour, I cannot hardly afford a bachelor apartment. It is about the living fair wage, and I think that we, council, can be more involved in terms of employment, job opportunities for the future, whether you're a skilled immigrant or someone who has been here a while. I think it has to be a cause.
Okay, Don Kirkhope.
I think that I know that immigrants add largely to our local economy. As a matter of fact, I've sold 7 businesses to Koreans. I've sold houses to Koreans. They've raised their children here. The children have become doctors, lawyers, and business people in Toronto. I did manage to find jobs for the Yangs, young Sue Yang, and they run the current Max Milk store in downtown Cobourg. And that store is actually growing and moving to the East End, to the corner of Brook Road and King. And so I'm all in favor in helping immigrants to establish and raise their children here and become great Canadians.
Gil Brockenier.
Yes, I would say that there's no doubt, all the statistics show that there's a definite need for skilled trades in Canada, in Ontario. There's a tremendous shortage, so much so that places like Ontario Hydro are calling back people who have retired and asking them to go back and work because we cannot fill the jobs that are needed for skilled trades. We're very fortunate here in Cobourg that we have the new Canadian Centre, who bring people who are new from outside of Canada and give them some of the skills that will lead to jobs, such as the language literacy skills and so on. And they've been very, very successful in that. I've attended several of their functions, and they're hardworking people. They're dedicated. They want to work in Cobourg and in Canada. We also have the Horizons of Friendship people. Through them, we can also make connections that would bring skilled people to Cobourg. And of course, the federal government just gave us a grant a short while ago.
Okay. So the question is about getting new Canadians coming to our town. Do you agree this is a priority? And if so, how would you attract skilled immigrants to Cobourg? John Henderson.
It's without a doubt that I believe as Canadians, it's our priority to welcome new Canadians to whether it be Cobourg, Ontario, or Canada. When they bring their skills for a specific job, they also bring their culture. They bring their identity. And I know in Cobourg we have a multicultural community that's existing in here. I know they work closely with the Cobourg Library in terms of learning skills, the educational centers in terms of education. I know Joan Chelovich recently brought a family here from Syria, and it was involved through a church organization. There are many groups within our community because we're a group of volunteers in Cobourg. By welcoming them and understanding them, I do believe we're enriched. It's a win-win situation. They learn us as Canadians and what we value, and we learn something really important about them. That can only make us better, because we often say our differences are our strength.
Paul Pagnuello.
I guess I take a very different approach, and that is that my philosophy is we need to treat everyone equally and everyone with respect. And I think it's wrong to focus on any one segment of our society and say, how do we help them or how do we help somebody else? We need to approach this in a very different way. And that's to say, how can we build up our community with skilled trades, skilled people, regardless of what their background is? How can we make it prosperous? How can we create jobs for everyone? What is going to be the drawing card to Cobourg in terms of people who live outside of it? We should be welcoming everybody, and we should be helping everybody, and not focusing on one particular segment of our community.
Donna Todd.
Yes, my parents were new Canadians so I understand the skills that they brought to this country and what they bring as new Canadians that I instilled in me is that you work hard and you enrich your own community. We enrich our community through those services that we offer through our government locally, and this is a beautiful community centre, our library services. We ensure that the new Canadians and all our Canadians and our citizens here have the transportation services that they require. There's a lot of crossover when we get into the county functions and the town functions. This is a large governmental issue, and that's how we make people welcome in our communities. I think we need to, it would be nice if we could get skilled immigrants so if we had jobs that they could come to, would be the nicest thing, and they'll work for the same jobs as the people that already live here, and we provide the educational services that we go with them.
Okay, now we'll move on to our next question now. What is your opinion on extending Kerr Street from Westwood Drive to East End Cobourg, effectively like a crosstown expressway? Your opinion on extending Kerr Street from Westwood Drive to East End Cobourg? We'll start with Don Kirkup.
Another handiwork by the consultants and the mayor without consulting the people first. This is my issue. This is one of my main issues. Why do we need an expressway from the west end to the east end with 4 bridges, one $10 million bridge over William Street through an environmental constraint area, killing the fish habitat at Thackeray Creek, 3 more bridges, $30 million later, and the mayor is already building Kerr Street north of the railway station bridge. He has his election sign right in the middle of this extension, which is a temporary entrance to the Home Hardware, where he has his signs all over the Home Hardware. Go figure.
And as the luck of the draw would have it, the old Rocketeer.
How fortunate. Well, I would just like to put this in proper perspective because the whole concept of Kerr Street was developed in my term of council from 1988 to 1991 when Don Kirkup was a member of council. And it was put forward by then the Public Works Director, Ken Rumble, who said that 50 years from now, when the east end of town is built up and we get to be about 35,000 population, we're going to need a major east-west corridor. And we all, at that time, agreed that that was a good concept when we get to 35,000 people. So the Kerr Street that everybody is talking about, I'm not going to see it in my lifetime, and many people here are not going to see it in their lifetime, because the east end will not get built out. The $10 million bridge is being bandied about, that is the cost of the bridge 25 years from now. That's not the cost of the bridge now, because there's no intention to build the bridge now. The only reason we're extending Kerr Street a little bit is because it will give us some service available industrial land.
Thank you. We'll toss the potato now to John Henderson.
I'm happy to answer this, being a coordinator of planning and development. I can tell you that West Park Village has grown extensively in the 4 years I've been on council, along with new Amherst. Also on the east end, we have Al Rose, who's building what we call the East Village, or what we call Chicken Dance development. The theory says in the Planning Act in town of Cobourg's official plan, by 2034, believe it or not, the east end is to expand by 18,000 citizens. That would take us to roughly 36,000 citizens. The bottom line is we only have one corridor that runs east to west right now, fully from one side to the other, and that's Elgin Street. So the vision was at a particular time, like closer to 2034, we would have a Kerr Street extension to accommodate the growth in Cobourg. Those decisions would have to be made by those future councils as to whether that's a good idea or not. Thank you.
So again, the question about extending Kerr Street across to East End Cobourg, Paul Pagliarello.
I guess the first question is, do we really want a major thoroughfare in our historic town? Yes, we're only 18,500 people right now, and yes, we're going to grow. But we need to ask ourselves, do we want to turn ourselves into something entirely different than what we are today? If the issue is access in terms of timely access, whether it be responding to emergency ambulance call or fire or police, we should be looking to the future in terms of the need to build a future satellite fire station, or maybe even 2 down the road. So the response time is greater. I don't think you need to put in a major thoroughfare to accomplish that. The number of 10 million was talked about in terms of the bridge. I believe it was the town engineer who quoted that number not long ago, and I don't think they were talking about it in the context of the future.
Thank you. And next is Donna Todd.
When a citizen asked me that question last week, and I quite frankly didn't have a clue what they were talking about, because there has never been the issue of a bridge over William Street. The Kerr Street access at this current stage in the town's growth is for the pedestrian access. So we need to allow a safe pedestrian access from the west end to the east end. And I have personally worked very hard to at least get the accessibility from Division Street over to Darcy Street to get it off rails, so pedestrians can get off the busy streets. So to me, that the Kerr Street extension isn't about the vehicles, it's about moving the people and to make it safe and accessible for everyone.
Miriam Newton.
My opinion on the extension of Kerr Street from Westwood Drive to East and Cobourg is that it's a good example of long-term planning. It's a wide corridor, which doesn't mean that it's going to be filled with pavement. It's actually a multi-use transportation corridor. In fact, we have actually been installing bicycle lanes in order to provide connectivity across town. If you'd like to know what it looks like, there's parts of it already built, Kerr Street in the West End area, and it is predominantly funded by development charges. So new development, my understanding is, pays for this. I advocated for active transportation, which means that this is ways of getting around other than by car, and I think this is very important in our future. So Kerr Street is really about, imagine a pleasant street to drive on, to ride your bicycle, to walk on, another way to get across town and connect with other neighborhoods.
Okay, we'll move on to our next question now. Another one that often comes up. Simply, what do you think should be done with the tannery lands? What about the tannery lands? And we'll start with Gil Brockenier.
Okay. Well, the tannery land is been a bit of an albatross around our neck because we have not been collecting taxes on it for a long time. It is so far in tax arrears that we have actually put it up for tax sale on several occasions, and most recently put out an RFP to have someone bid on the land and give us a proposal as to what they might do with it. Again, we were unsuccessful. So I think we're at a point now that we're either going to have to wait until the price drops dramatically and some ambitious brownfield developer comes along with a scheme that we can support, or else we go back to the public and say, okay, the town is going to take over this property. It is slightly contaminated, but we're willing to take that cost on. And what would the public like to see take place on the tannery properties? Would they like to see a community garden? Would they like to see a parkland? Or would they like to see affordable housing put in there? But I think that's a question.
John Henderson.
In the past, I myself participated in the tannery charrette, and I found it most rewarding. As part of that, we discovered that it would be great to have a mixed residential area with a central parkette that would appear to all income and ages, and also have a linkage to the newly developed via station. We also felt the development should be architectural and also complementary because it is within the George Street Heritage District. Also, it aligns very beautifully with our official plan in terms of what we call infill development, and it also aligns with the provincial government screening initiatives regarding reclaiming brownfield sites, something that we can certainly explore as a town. I'm very pleased that this council has requested a request for proposal to work with an applicant to make the Tannery Lands a viable self-sustaining community project, or through another dimension, through public community participation.
Paul Pagnuello.
I think if the opportunity presents itself, we need to look at the whole downtown, the beach, that whole area that we want to develop to be an attraction, whether it be entertainment, whether it be retail, not just to tourists, but to our own local residents. The issue we've got with the beach, and I sure want to have stand by the beach, is the parking issue, particularly on weekends, and people from out of town come in and park their vehicles, basically paying close to little to use our beach. I think we have a great opportunity if we really do some serious thinking, where we could use the Tannery land as an area to park vehicles, bring people down to the beach by trolley, through the downtown, and just continue that loop. I think we really need to look at how we can grow the tourism, but at the same time,
The question of what to do with the Tannery lands, Donna Todd.
Yes, I attended a seminar in August, and it was they were showing me what they were doing with the Don Westlands for the coming Commonwealth Games, and they were reclaiming the brownfields there. So the technology is there, so I think Cobourg does have that opportunity to be able to reclaim that land. The testing has been there as far as what the contamination is. It has leached out, and it appears that it's all right. It's obviously a community decision on how it gets developed. And as far as living on the waterfront, it's a wonderful place to live. People always find a place to park, and the happiness and joy that you see on their face when they're coming and going is unbelievable.
Muriel Newton.
With respect to the Tannery lands, there was a charrette held. It involved the public, and perhaps in the future we could revisit this just to make sure that we're heading in the right direction. It is a strategic location right by the train station, and the train station will be a more important gateway into the town. So what a wonderful opportunity to showcase innovation. And I'm talking about sustainable building practices, energy efficiency. It could be a model community. Back in 2008, there was a study that showed there were no new building houses under $150,000. I mean, that talk about affordability. So what I would like to see is modular housing, perhaps in a community garden setting that could be self-sufficient, energy from the ground, energy from the sun, and a model for new industry and potentially new jobs. And we have the chance, we can be a leader in this area.
Now, Don Kirkup.
Well, the town of Cobourg has twice called for proposals from developers for the Tannery lands, which, as the mayor says, are slightly contaminated. I would think it would be better if the town would clean up the site, turn it over to a private investor, and build something that's going to be useful in the community. I would make it into the finest healthcare center in Ontario, and also install a transportation terminal there so people could visit. I consulted 2 architects in Cobourg to ask them if they would prepare me plans for which night, but they were too busy. So we are, in fact, preparing plans. I went to the town hall specifically, discussed the matter with the CEO, and I have an application ready to go to build the finest healthcare center in Ontario on the Tannery lands, provided the town will clean up the environment, turn it over to the developer for free.
We'll move on to our next question now. And its candidates are focused on the downtown. What will you do to assist other commercial areas of the town that are also struggling? So what will you do to assist commercial areas of the town other than downtown that are also struggling? We'll start with John Henderson.
One of the things coming forward in this term of council will be the Heritage Master Plan. And often we think of the Heritage Master Plan perhaps applying only to the heritage districts, but perhaps if we can be innovative and work with provincial government and find ways to apply the grants, because I know grants are exceeding to a 40% level. And perhaps we could apply some of those grants and initiatives through the MMAH, Municipal Affairs and Housing, to aid and support commercial developments. I also believe it's critically important to meet with the owners to ensure that they're perhaps working with our staff and town staff or through community futures development in building a business plan, because often I find they do not have a business plan or a strategic plan in which to gain better business and development and economics.
Paul Pagnarello.
Part of what we're seeing in terms of the decline of our historic downtown and other areas is really the impact of the big box stores that come in. They offer lots of convenience, great prices, lots of choice, but at what cost? People like the convenience of being able to shop in one large area like that, free parking, and they're drawn by prices. That's the price we've paid as a community by allowing big box stores to come in. So we need to again come back to downtown and other areas that may be suffering. And the best way to deal with that is to look at how we can bring them into being retail and an entertainment attraction that's going to bring people back downtown. And there are a lot of ways we can talk about doing it. I think what's happening with the revitalization plan.
Donna Todd.
Yes, the other commercial areas that the town of Cobourg continues to improve the development of. We're continuing to approve the strip malls on the outskirts of town. We're not saying no to development. We're not saying, what about the infill that we have? We have buildings here that could use the refurbishment. Is your business plan looked at these areas? We just allow the sprawl to continue. So if we're really serious about it, that's how we help the other smaller strip malls, the smaller that used to be the corner stores areas to maintain their integrity and to continue to do it.
It's the question about what will you do to assist other commercial areas of the town that are also struggling. Miriam Newton.
I think it's very important that I would help council to take a look at the entire town and how it's connected to each other. The other business areas, if you think about it, are primarily accessed by the car. And when the baby boomers, as I understand it, turn 80, when you get tested every year for your driver's license, the demand on our transportation system and being able to get to these other business places is going to change. Cobourg actually has a very good transit system, but I think it's the connectivity to these other places. Further, when you come off the 401, it looks like everywhere else. I think we need to focus on helping those other business areas to make them feel like they're part of the unique downtown, that they're an extension. Perhaps this means allowing second-story living quarters. Let's what we call Main Street, these other business areas, so they look like little village centers. And I think that would actually help people be attracted to those places.
Don Kirkhope.
Well, as a real estate agent, I have established at least 7 small businesses on the periphery of the downtown. The 123 Chinese Foods, the Coverdale Center, which is a convenience store. I moved Max Milk from downtown, unfortunately. The owner of the property, which I manage, wanted to make some improvements, but the town designated as a heritage site. You can imagine Max Milk as a heritage site. And nothing can be built until the Heritage Master Plan is prepared for 1916 by the consultants. So anybody who wants to do any renovations downtown has to wait till the consultant's report in 2016, otherwise you can't do anything.
Gil Brockenier.
Yes, the commercial areas outside of the downtown pay taxes just the same as the downtown does. We owe them something, and that is why I go out with our economic development people and we talk to them as well. What we talk to them about is the opportunities that are available in terms of funding for training, funding for development and expansion and so on. So we do owe them that much. And I do tell them, yes, there is a focus on the downtown vitalization, and so there should be. But everything we learn when we vitalize the downtown, at some point we're going to take that and apply it to the perimeter businesses, the commercial businesses in the town of Cobourg. And one of the things that we're encouraging them to do is to take a look at our urban design guidelines. And if you want an example of our urban design guidelines, just go up on County Road 2 and drive by the Canadian Tire Gas Bar and Mark's Work Warehouse. That's the type of designs that we want them all to take, because it is a very attractive.
And we'll stay in the same area for our next question, and this again is for all candidates. The town of Cobourg owns a significant amount of commercial and industrial property. Do you feel it is appropriate for the town to compete directly and aggressively with tax-paying property owners for tenants? So once again, do you feel it is appropriate for the town to compete directly and aggressively with tax-paying property owners for tenants? And we'll begin with Paul Pagduello.
Very quick answer, absolutely not. I don't agree at all that we should be competing with the private sector. We should be sticking to what we're good at, or should be good at, and that's delivering core services. Somebody said to me not long ago, well, when we bought the Northern Industrial Park, it was a great investment for money. I would suggest it would have been an even greater investment when we bought a whole bunch of Tim Hortons franchises. The point is that we should not be in the business of owning and running businesses. That's up to the private sector. Let us focus on running government and doing a good job at it.
Donna Todd.
Well, that's a bit of a conflict, because you're also talking about running a trolley down to the beach for tourists. So, are we competing? Are we setting it up for tourists to come in? It's a very delicate balance on how we work with business. Those are how we find those partnerships to work with. Do we compete? Is that part of the infrastructure picture, that we make sure that when businesses do come into town, are we competing with them, or are we making sure that they are succeeding by providing those services?
Miriam Newton.
I have a couple of parts to this answer, and I believe that the town did make a good investment in the industrial parks, and as you may know, there is a dividend that is received that is for the taxpayer, and it's used to offset the taxes that you pay. So I feel that generally the town should not be in competition with private enterprise, because that actually could hurt establishment of business. But one of the strengths that I have seen with regards to your investment into an industrial park and industrial lands is that there's opportunity for incubator businesses, for businesses to come in. The town will facilitate them to be able to start maybe in a smaller space. And when you have a business that's established, then they will tend to grow. I've heard figures, I believe it's 1 in 8. It takes as much effort to create one job in a new company than it is 8 jobs in an existing company, or something like that.
Our question about the town owning commercial industrial property and whether it's appropriate for them to compete directly and aggressively with property owners for tenants. Don Kirkup.
Well, as I said, the province unloaded that white elephant in the Northumberland Industrial Park onto the town. I said that there was 250 square feet of vacant space. Therefore, the town corrected my figures, which I did get from the Economic Development Department, and they said there was only 135,000 square feet vacant. Well, that means at $4 a square foot per year rent, the town is losing $500,000 already. And the people who manage the Northern Industrial Park contributed quite heavily to the mayor's election campaign last year.
Gil Brockenier.
Well, I do support the town being in the business of competing with the private sector, because Northern Industrial Park, as a matter of fact, gives us a dividend of about $750,000 a year, which goes to certain projects that offset, that we don't have to go to the taxpayer for. We're putting $750,000 a year in capital, investing it back in the infrastructure to make sure that it is kept up to the standard it should be. In about 5 years' time, we are going to be completely clear of the mortgage debt, and we will be then having about $1.5 million a year coming out of that Northern Industrial Park that is going to relieve all of you of a bit of a tax burden. And one of the reasons that it's worked so well for us is we can work with people. When we have a company that wanted to expand, we worked with them, and we actually funded the expansion through our capital program, and then they re-signed a lease and paid us back over 5 years.
John Henderson.
I believe there are two parts to this question. The past council, and I'm talking past councils many, many years before this one, did take the initiative to create the Northern Industrial Park. At that time, the community felt it to be a risk, perhaps a high risk. The payoff, as our mayor has indicated, 7 to 8 years, the mortgage indeed will be paid off. The money available between $1 and $1.5 million benefit to your community, which means our community, but that was started by many councils before. On top of that, we also have an annual dividend. So when you look at what we've received in the number of years since, I'm guessing in the neighborhood of $2 million. So we can talk the glass half full of $2 million or the glass half empty, that we have X number of square feet. However, in today's present economy, I couldn't support such thing as a Northern Industrial Park because I do believe in private enterprise, I do believe in private business, and I believe we have to promote that.
Okay, we'll move along now to another question. Local Housing Coalition has gone public with the problem of how some homeless people are being forced to sleep outside during last winter when they could not qualify for space at Transition House, which is the county's only shelter. Would you agree the town has a responsibility to add to find and develop some type of warming center that would include overnight stays, or do you feel this is strictly the responsibility of the county? So the question is whether you believe developing some type of warming center is the town's responsibility or the county. Paul Pagnuello.
To begin with, the issue of homelessness, as I've read about it here in the county, and has been front and center in the media recently, the most important thing that people are trying to get their heads around is what's the extent of it. The county, none of us really know the extent of homelessness. It's not been measured. And then how do you assist those, not just those who are in Cobourg or Port Hope, how do you assist those in other areas of the county which aren't large urban centers? We all have a responsibility to help those who are less fortunate. Homelessness is a fairly important issue. I think, though, we can't be counterproductive. We can't be working against the county. We have to work collaboratively with our other partner. And I don't think saying that we should do something on our own is the best route. We need to work with the county because this is a county-wide problem.
Donna Todd.
Yes, I would be more than willing to work with the county to find a solution for this. I can tell you that today I witnessed two citizens that were sleeping on the sidewalk. So it is very prevalent. It is here. It is now. Cobourg is not a little utopia that we think it is. And it has to be in conjunction because that is the way the province deems that the funding will come. Can we reach out and ensure or let our connections in the town with the county and work with the agencies that provide that service to make it supported for all the community? Absolutely.
Mary Mouton.
I believe that the local community or the town actually does have an obligation to work in collaboration with its partners. This is not a responsibility to be handed over to another level of government. I believe that any one of us can fall upon hard times, and I think there needs to be an improved connectivity between the different organizations that can provide such a service or can connect the dots for someone who has fallen upon hard times. And so in essence, I do seek increased collaboration. I do believe that the local government, because we represent all citizens in the community, need to be able to respond in such cases.
Don Kirkup.
Well, the word homeless has never appeared on Cobourg's council's agenda. That will a big part of my healthcare center to provide shelter in emergencies and also to provide shelter for Alzheimer's victims and so on. The town council did never have the word jobless or homeless appear on their council agenda. Too busy looking for a new dog park, and also they argued for 4 years about marrying new dogs all of our grass. And it's an epic, she's breaking the law laws, she's breaking the enforcement laws, and crack down.
Okay. Well, this time it's not about you. Gil Brockenier.
What can I say? There's no doubt that homelessness is a serious issue in Northumberland County, everywhere, but I'm more familiar with what's taking place in Northumberland County. And that's why we went ahead and we developed a 10-year plan for homelessness housing in the county of Northumberland. And so we are addressing those issues. And we have a continuum that says the first thing we have to do is we have to provide transitional housing, then move people to rental housing, and then finally to ownership. And you do that by giving them shelter. Once you provide them shelter, then they're more readily to cope with some of the other issues in their life that are creating their problems. And in the short term, we have 3 places right now that are providing shelter. We have the Salvation Army, Transition House, and of course Cornerstone Rental. Also, the county does give out vouchers to the police, the Salvation Army County, for people to use a motel if they found the other.
John Henderson.
Bottom line, homelessness belongs to all of us. It's in every community, it's everywhere in Ontario. We try to address, I guess, from a legal point of view through the official plan. Yes, we have phrases in there that say 10 out of every homes have to be affordable. Under the new Northumberland County Steering Committee plan, it indicates that 25% of homes to be built in the future need to be affordable. So the language is actually starting to go into plans which drive planning. However, that still doesn't address the issue. Because as we know, there are a number of social service agencies throughout our community, and I believe that we need a form of integration because the needs are multifaceted. We know sometimes there's drug and alcohol abuse, there's mental illness, there's just general care, sometimes just tough times. So I'm a firm believer that we can address this far better than we have, and probably perhaps align with Northumberland County, but we really have to work on the integration of services.
Okay. Our next question is for deputy mayor candidates. So carefully, there's a bit wordy for this one. What are the specific plans for the expansion of Cobourg Marina West? How do we make sure that wildlife, pedestrian, cyclist travel, canoeing, and kayak schools, dragon boating, water sustainability are protected? Should this issue be put to a taxpayer vote and let the citizens decide? So again, plans for expansion of Cobourg Marina West, and should the issue be put to a taxpayer vote and let the citizens decide for deputy mayor candidates, starting with Donna Todd.
When this was first brought forward a year ago at the first, it was an open house, but it was held at the Yacht Club, so there weren't a lot of outside agencies were there. And the first plans that were brought up, and I did support them, they involved the infrastructure on the piers, and it is a vital part of our downtown area also. But when I saw plan phase 2 and 3, I went back to the different user groups and said, are you aware completely of what this involves? Because that is going into the West Basin. So I was very proactive, and because there were letters of support from various groups, that they understood what was happening. And that's when we started, when are we going to have the public engagement? So it needs to be public engagement, it will be public engagement, we will get the harbor that everyone will find functional and useful and specific to everyone's needs.
John Henderson.
Presently, Shoreline Engineering are making recommendations, and I feel those recommendations must address all stakeholders, whether you be a walking club, Survivor Thrivers, Cobourg Dragon Boat Canoe Club, Willow Beach Field Naturalist, or the Cobourg Yacht Club. The bottom line is, as these are addressed, the report must reflect a multi-dimensional approach and be equitable in all terms. If I find that any one particular group is dominated, I will not support that group under any endeavor. It has to be approached because it is a public land, it's public marina, it's a public harbor. It belongs to all of us. Bottom line is, we need public engagement. This reminds me of 29 years ago, we had the same issue with our waterfront then. And that's the beautiful waterfront you're walking on now. It took 10 to 17 years to bring that what you have now. I believe we're at that same stage. We need public engagement.
Paul Paguello.
On a really critically important issue that can affect all our citizens, there are some times when you need a referendum because that can deliver the true people's voice. Some things should just not be left to politicians to decide. When you take a precious asset like our waterfront, it's priceless. And you get a council in place that decides it's going to do things backwards. Rather than ask the people first what they'd like to do, they develop their own plan, go out and hire a consultant, and say this is what we think should be done. And then they, as an afterthought, ask the public what do they think. I don't need a consultant to tell me that my stand on this is very clear. I am against any expansion in the West Harbor.
And we have one more question now, and this one is for the mayoral candidates. There are over 300 families on the official waiting list for subsidized housing in Northumberland County. The county adopted a 10-year housing homelessness plan last year and does not include the building of any subsidized housing during that time. Is that good enough for our low-income residents? Please explain why or why not. So, 10-year housing homelessness plan that does not include the building of any subsidized housing. Is that good enough for low-income residents? Please explain why or why not. Starting with Gil Brockenier.
Well, actually, the 10-year homelessness and housing plan does not include any low-income housing. Basically, because the investment in affordable housing usually comes in the form of a grant from the province. And we don't know what the province is going to give us from one year to the next, just to keep the 880 units we have of affordable, of socially run houses in the county of Northumberland. So for us to put that in the plan that we're going to build more housing would be misleading. However, I do agree there is a shortage, and I know there's a shortage. I've visited every community in the county, and I know there are people waiting, and I know we have to do something about it. We will continue to lobby the government to give us money to help solve the problem in Northumberland County. And I do believe that there is some funding going to become available from the Ministry of Housing and Social Services.
Miriam Newton.
Thank you. First of all, I actually have to address something that Mr. Kirkup brought up, and I thank him for bringing it up because I'm sure it's on the minds of many. Quite frankly, I am no longer in violation of a bylaw. Council changed that bylaw. I helped improve the bylaw, and more than 100 other gardeners are also now no longer in violation. So I would ask Mr. Kirkup, please do your homework. On the matter of 300 families without homes, I think that we actually need to look at perhaps some creative ideas. I am an advocate that we should not make pockets of social housing and into corners of our community. We need to encourage assimilation of these living units into the community generally. We need to be creative with existing planning and zoning bylaws. We have the idea of a granny flat or garden suite, perhaps an apartment in an existing home. I think this can go a long way in helping all members of the community stay in place and have new places.
And Don Kirkup.
Well, I believe that the Ontario Housing Corporation is doing a terrific job in providing housing. It's just that the waiting list is too long. It's just like the waiting list for boat docks at the harbor.
right, that will conclude the questioning for our mayor and deputy mayor candidates. Again, a big thanks to them and to you for your questions. I know we've had some interesting ones here, and it's been a lengthy evening, but the fact that most of you stuck around shows the degree of interest that there is in that, and we appreciate it. And just a reminder, if you want any further details, you can stop by any of their tables before you leave. For some final closing remarks, though, I'd just like to turn things over to Peter Danukas.
Hello, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight and staying a little bit late. I apologize for going over. I'd like to thank Kevin for hosting and the staff of the CCC for having us.